All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Game One Pick Band for the NA Tournament Finals for Gold and Above between Team X Semi Pro and the New York Timberlands. My name is Nibiria, and I'm joined here by N-Step.
How's it going, Iberia? Feeling pretty good today. How about you?
It's going great. It's been a while, man. I'm glad to have you back in the casting arena with me. Cause we did two NYT series last year, didn't we? Or last session.
Yes, I believe we did. Yeah. I definitely can recall doing several NYCT series. I have never personally casted the ESP though, so I have not familiar with them. But this does look to be the same exact team with actually, is their top laner the same? I don't recall NA best teamo, but Sabin, Neko Waifu, Habibi Papi, and KDR I do remember from last session.
Yeah, no, I think it was either a name change or a player change.
Well,
But
either way, nice to see a team sticking together for
yeah,
multiple sessions. So that's definitely cool. I'm glad to see that.
they were the champions last time, weren't they?
I do not recall. It's been a
I
while
don't
since
either.
the end of the last. I don't, yeah, I did watch the
I feel
finals, but I
like
don't
I feel
recall.
like I should write that down. Anyways, we have a few bands coming out. The Vladimir ban I don't really get all that much, nor do I get the Alawi ban. Is this a reaction to the patch changes that came out, I think, yesterday?
I
Or
believe the Alawi is a targeted ban. I mean, it's Alawi is like I think she does get buffed by the in particular the changes to Death Stance are really nice for Alawi because an extra 15% damage reduction from the passive essentially like upfront damage reduction and you take it as over time that helps her get off her cast times a lot more reliably while she's taking huge damage. Unfortunately, though, it makes it so that the other changes that hurt her were the changes to Sterax gauge, where it's not as good of an early purchase because it scales off of bonus HP instead of your maximum HP.
right.
So that's kind of unfortunate. We're seeing very standard lock-ins here, though, and Ash for ESP and quick response with the Ari and Lee Sin from NYT. Nice to see the Timberlands picking up some standard stuff. Sabin going to be running out of Lee Sin and is Zed for Zeta.
Uh, is Zed? I haven't seen Zed this entire. I want to say season, not Learning 5 session, but the entirety of season. What are we on now? 7? I should know that. Um,
Yep.
what is this? Just a Zeta pocket pick, which would be pretty. Makes sense to me based on the name. But am I missing something?
Zed
Maybe.
Zed was quite strong when the lethality items were at the top of the meta, which was around 7.3, 7.4, I believe, is
Ah,
when lethality got buffed. He's definitely fallen off since lethality itemization has been nerfed, but he's a fine pick. It's the matchup into Ari, the Zed versus Ari matchup it's considered to be a skill matchup, but it's not a 50-50 skill matchup. It's something like 55 favorite for Ari. But if you're confident in the matchup, like say Zeta, thinks, oh, I've played this matchup, 50 times, or something like that, and very recently, or he's just very confident in his Zed ability. He says, okay, you know what, I'm taking the Zed versus Ari matchup, even though it's slightly unfavorable. It is close, and it is a skill matchup at the end of the day. So it's something you can take. Another big lock-in here, Ivern for Acvius. That's a huge pick right now. Really, really, really oppressive champion, nearing 100% pick ban in competitive play right now. So that's going to be a pretty nice boost, especially with things like the Ashe and the Zed. You can keep them
mm-hmm.
safe, especially for team fighting. Zed typically not thought of as like a really strong team fighter, but it's a lot easier to allow these champions to team fight. These assassins and these like lighter bruisers to team fight when you have an Ivern to walk around, give them extra shields, give them an extra redemption, give them an extra locket, stuff like that. And also the extra disruption of Daisy and all of that sort of stuff. It's also really helpful to help Zed out. But we're seeing a really standard composition from NYCT. This is
Ooh.
pretty much like very, very, very standard, flexible comp. They can do picks with the Ari and the Lee Sin and the Nautilus. They can do team fights, with all 4 plus Sivir. It's just very, very, very flexible, very, very, very standard picks. And the Galio locked in for a villain in the top lane as well. Another pick that's really sort of emerged on 7-8. We're now on 7-9 though, so there are some more changes. But Galio has really emerged in competitive play for 7-8 and has sort of taken up a premier role in the top lane.
Yeah, NYT here with this season 3 composition coming out pretty big. For the blue side though, ESP. My question is, will Galio be enough magic damage for them throughout the game?
Well, you're going to expect the nice thing about when you pick like a full AP comp or sorry, a full AD comp in this case, but you have a magic damage laner that's a tank, is the Nautilus, which is the tank for NYT, is laning against the Galio, which means he's forced to build a magic resist full item as his first item, which means that even if it is true that yes, the Nautilus will get huge amounts of armor later in the game, it's very much delayed because he is going to be forced to build that, probably Spirit Visage, but we might see something like the Adaptive Helm or the Abyssal Scepter come out. He's going to be building that first item. And so even though, yes, eventually the Nautilus will become fairly difficult to kill for this Ashe and this Zed, they're going to have a very, very, very difficult time killing the Nautilus. It's not going to be until around 3 to 4 items that the Nautilus is really going to achieve that unkillable status because he doesn't need to buy any extra MR. And he can go straight armor and health after that first item. But still, there is that significant delay. So it won't be as bad as it would be in some other situations where, say, it was a jungle tank. Right? Like if Saban was playing, say, something like Gragas jungle, that would be very threatening because he would be able to just get Cinderhook into a variety of armor itemization. But since it is the Nautilus lane against the Galio, it won't be as bad as it could be otherwise.
Right. It's I'm gonna be lost this game, by the way, as per itemization changes. So I'm glad I have you with me to help me make sense of them. But can you give us a little rundown? Because this is the first Learning Fives game we've had after the changes, and they were pretty significant. Can you give us a rundown on the general trend of what happened to AD itemization and what happened to tank itemization? Because I think those are the two big points that Riot hit.
So the big things, I guess, as far as, aside from reworks, which we're not seeing here, of course, the big things with AD itemization, so 200 gold off of the cost of Infinity Edge and Essence Reaver, as well as 100 gold off the cost of Zeal. But the combined costs for the Zeal items were higher, or raised, and then Zeal items were rebalanced a little bit. Basically, what that means is that for AD carries like Sivir, or for example Ashe, that like to go for builds like Infinity Edge Zeal, which is like an item and a half spike, or Infinity Edge plus a Zeal item, you're either hitting that spike at 200 or 300 less gold than you were before, which means that you're hitting it much faster, much earlier in the game, and it's a much more reliable spike, as opposed to the Blade of the Ruin King, which was nerfed on this patch, made to cost 100 more gold, which means AD carries like Lucian that were relying 100% on that Blade of the Ruin King are not quite as good, although I think Lucian is still quite fine on 7.9. The crit itemization is just much stronger overall. As far as other itemization, for AD carries, the Zeal items were completely rebalanced. So like PD, Phantom Dancer got a small nerf, whereas Hurricane, the early game of it was nerfed a little bit, but the scaling of it was buffed, so it's a little bit better late game. The Shiv's damage to champions was buffed a little bit, and the changes to Rapid Fire Cannon were to make it do a little bit less damage but charge faster, so it's a more reliable like siege poke item. And in general, just like a little bit of rebalancing across some AD carry itemization. So you expect to see new things. The Sivir is particularly buffed by the AD carry itemization changes because she builds both IE and Essence Reaper, which means she gets to essentially double dip on that cost reduction. Most AD carries only build one or the other. So for Essence Reaper AD carries that are also going IE, they're essentially getting a 400 gold discount on buying both, which is really, really, really awesome. Really, really, really efficient for them. As far as tank itemization goes, the changes there, essentially most tank items were changed to give more resistances and less health if they give both of those. And then the items that only gave resistances or only gave health, like Warmogs or Thornmail, remain at the same amount. But basically that means that your first item tank spikes, they're not as universally powerful, but they're more powerful in lane because there's more of that resistance against your lane opponent who primarily does that, one type of damage. Does mean that hybrid champions did get better as well, especially early on in the game. But overall, the tank itemization, it's the items themselves were changed a bit. Things like Randuin's has more crit reduction on it, but less health. Sunfire doesn't have the same level of AoE, and it does less damage to champions, a bit more damage to minions. So it'll be interesting to see this top lane matchup on 7-9 because Nautilus won't have access to that reliable, super high champion damage from the Bomb Cinder and the Sunfire. So that'll be interesting to see. And yeah, overall, I think the tank itemization changes are just going to be more resistances, less health, but the compensation was, of course, that Last Whisper does less penetration. So not quite as threatening to those tanks.
All right, well, we'll be going into the game in probably less than 15 seconds. Thank you for the explanation. While the viewers digest, we're not even going to have time for music, so...
Yeah, sorry for the long-winded explanation, but there's a whole lot of changes on 7.9 since it is the mid-season update, and we're seeing
Absolutely.
the game boot up right now.
Yep, so we're into Game 1 of the NA Finals for Gold and Above for this Learning 5's session. We're going to call it the April 2017 session because we decided that April-May 2017 was a little too long. We're going with it now. But while we're in the game, we have Team X Semi-Pro on the blue side and the New York Timberlands on the red. And we're seeing a five-man invade here from the former. Not quite going to catch out NA Best Team, I think, but a flash route coming down, and he's going to have to flash to get out of it. So flash for flash burned, and Step, how is the jungler flash trading for the top laner flash? I feel like the jungler flash is worth a lot more.
Yeah, I think the jungler flash is typically worth a bit more than the top laner's flash. The only big breakpoint is if Acvius is able to path around to the top lane early on, he can take advantage of that missing flash, especially against something like a Nautilus where you could potentially block that hook if you can get up behind him, especially on a jungler that has so much available different pathing options available to him, like Ivern. You can definitely potentially path up there early on, get behind that Nautilus and block his hook. With no flash, you can potentially even lock him down, especially with this Galio that does a lot of damage early on. Huge damage, as we're seeing Acvius maybe walk into a trap.
Oh no, Acvius getting engaged on immediately, dropping below half here, gonna pop his potion. I don't think he's gonna get taken out, but the counter engage coming in, root down onto Sabin, and it looks like Acvius getting incredibly low, but not gonna fall just yet. Sabin using flash over the wall, NA Best Teemo getting the stun on the villain, and it looks like it's gonna be a disengage from here. But a bit of a weird level 1 there, because Acvius was sitting on that ward. So
yeah, at the end of the day, even though the flash was blown off of Sabin, I think the trade does go in favor of NYT there. Timberlands come out, even though they lose the flash in their jungler for essentially no summoners on the other side, they get all of the health off of Acvius almost. He's very low. And so that forces him to blow both of his charges on his potion there, as well as making it so that he has to base early. You can see he's basing right now. This means he can't get that early camp advantage, that early XP advantage by marking all those camps and doing those efficient paths around the jungle, which means that he's going to be really far behind Sabin in the early game, most likely, for most of this early game. Unlike normally where on Ivern you do get a really big early lead for free just by doing all that camp marking. So that's really nice for Sabin. It's just unfortunate that he kind of wasted his flash there.
Yeah, just a little bit of unfortunate slop coming out. Justice Punch going down on the NA Best Teemo. Winds of War almost taking him out, so he's gonna have the base already. Looks like that flash being blown actually did come in. Oh, Charm going down onto Zeta. Zeta shadowing forward. I'm not sure.
A lot of action, a lot of trading all across the map, but NA Best Teemo definitely close hook. But KDR getting the play anyway, but not sure if he really wants this trade.
No, this is interesting trades going down in the bot lane. Ooh, Justice Punch coming out again, but Curse of the Colossus Shield going to be enough to save NA Best Teemo from death. He needs to be careful here. He should base, right? And he is. Oh, while Sabin goes into the mid lane in first blood. Well, I was contemplating.
Just coming in at the right time. It's a nice timing. Just sort of not an expected timing because of that weird level 1 where Sabin was, sort of put into a different spot in his jungle. So normally you're expecting the jungler to come either, mid lane, you're expecting him to come, at least in normally around 3 minutes. Or if he takes 2 more camps, it'll be closer to 4 minutes. And so it's sort of a weird timing where Lee Sin took 3 camps, but normally you would expect him to be a bit more delayed, but maybe with the path that he took, faster than Zeta had thought. And so was able to get in there and get that kill down with the exhaust from Nekowefu coming down. So nice to see, and we're seeing trades in the top lane.
That animation is so great for this skin. This skin is amazing.
Yeah, this skin is definitely great, and you can see this. Like I said, this Galio does a lot of damage. It's a very, very, very powerful, especially with the Thunderlords, which is what Villain has taken in this game. Very, very, very powerful early trading, and NA Best Teemo is having a really hard time trading against it, which is why you can see he's down 10 CS right now. Very significant margin at this point in the game. So we'll see if NA Best Teemo is able to scale back out, because of course the Courage of the Colossus does scale much better than the Thunderlords, and in general Nautilus as a tank is going to get tankier than Galio, although he will never do as much damage as Galio does.
Well, you mentioned the difference in keystones there, and I'm wondering, is Thunderlords, do you think, the, quote, best on Galio? Is it situational? Because the alternatives that I can think of would be Courage of the Colossus, Grasp, and I don't think he would use Pact very well, but that's about it.
Yeah, you're right on the available options. I think mostly your options for... Ooh, we're seeing a bubble hit onto Habibi Puppy, but not going to go in on that. Anyway, so the available options are... I think the optimal things are mostly just Grasp and Thunderlords. As we're seeing yet another trade going towards...
Root going down onto Neko Waifu, who's going to have to flash it, but a Charm going down onto Ivern. Going to be taken out again. As there's a trade in the bot lane. Isazaya has been ignited, so going to be out of this fight for the foreseeable future. KDR getting low, as is Bakyan, but no deaths yet. Both supports incredibly low, though, and Habibi Poppy has the health advantage, but taking a lot of damage, and KDR just hooked the minion. Sabin trying to kill Zeta, while Zeta's trying to get some cheeky shadow damage, juking out the Sonic Wave, and he's going to survive this one.
Yeah, Sabin just being in the right place at the right time, able to follow up and counter that gank by Acvius. Acvius is going to fall even further behind now. Sabin can invade here. It looks like he's going for an invade, but I don't think he realizes the villain is actually behind him. Oh no, he's going to turn around. Okay, so just poking his head in there in the jungle. If he had not stayed mid lane, probably. Oh, is that a? Oh,
he gets the charm! Holy shit! Oh, with the ignite and the death mark, he's going down for it. That was almost so cool, and then he just died.
A really nice initial play by Neko Waifu, and then committed a little bit too hard. Could have just let the red buff tick down onto Zeta and kill him, but waited around, let Zeta get the ignite plus death mark damage off, and unfortunately ended up going down. We are seeing, by the way, Neko Waifu is going for the new RE build, the Gunblade RE build, where you look for picks, sustain in the side lane. Sort of pressure in lane as well. It's a little bit of a better laning build in some matchups, particularly this matchup. I do think the Gunblade makes some sense, since it does give you some extra health and such, and some extra kite ability, since you have that slow. But yeah, so interesting to see all that, and nice ult by villain, but not really able to pick anything up. Did get an assist off of it,
yeah.
But no actual use coming out of it, just other than press R, acquire 150 gold, and end up...
Well, there you go. I mean, that's a pretty good trade. I'd take that pretty much every time.
Yeah, it is something to note about the Galio, is he doesn't have a combat ult for 1v1ing, so the Nautilus does. Even then, even though that is the case, I still don't think the Nautilus is going to be able to 1v1, since he is down 20 CS at this point. Acvius is getting caught here. He does have flash.
Oh, but Villain already predicted this. If Acvius is going to go down, Villain not quite in the right position, just sitting there, and Neko Waifu doesn't have charm for Zeta, but it's just, this is not Acvius' game. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, it seems like Sabin is just in the right place at the right time. Sort of either has vision or just is reading Acvius really well. Getting nice wards in the right spot. Although, of course, against the Ivern, you kind of expect him to do plays like that, where he's looking to snipe out those camps like the Raptors really frequently. So, you kind of have to expect, maybe the Lee Sin with the Tracker's Knife, of course, is going to ward those sometimes, and you have to be expecting that, especially when when Neko Waifu is winning the mid lane.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have mid lane pressure. So it's, the classic statement, you can't go for invades when you don't have pressure in the lanes nearby. You just can't expect to be able to invade, as we're seeing KDR.
Play coming out from KDR. KDR's like, death sentence, who needs that? Oh, Sabin's coming down for the gank. Bakyan getting ignited. KDR coming in, but Acvius is there for the gank as well. Habibi Poppy is the first one to go down in this fight. KDR might be there to follow, but Sabin going to try and save his support. And is KDR gonna die here? He gets the death sentence, but I think that might have been a mistake. But Isazaya goes down before KDR does. Bakyan might go down as well. Sabin does have ult in half a second here. Bakyan flashing in for the auto is gonna die to the minions.
That wasn't worth it.
No, these fights, they're flashes of brilliance followed by flashes of watching myself play, like that one.
That was also an unfortunate play where you burn your flash, go for that cheesy kill, hope they're shopping, and it turns out that NA Best Teemo was not in the shop, or at least wasn't deep enough in the shop. They didn't notice the flash, so was able to just kind of walk away from that one. Keeps his own flash, so that's nice. Neko Waifu seems to have taken some bad trades here in the mid lane. He's pretty low. There's definitely some kill potential from Zeta here, especially as his Ignite is about to come up. So I expect to see Zeta go for this kill when his W comes off cooldown in about 9 seconds.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention the Living Shadow cooldown. He can't really trade without it. Waifu getting a little bit of sustain. Oh, he's probably dead here. Good trade from Zeta. Oh, but Sabin might be able to get the kill as well. Missing the Sonic Wave, gets the slow. Zeta's gonna have to flash out, but good engage timing from Zeta there, and good juke onto the Sonic Wave, preventing Sabin from getting the revenge kill.
Classic Lee Sin mistake. Was already in range for the Tempest cripple. Could have gone for that slow to make hitting that hitting the resonating strike easier, and didn't go for it. Decided to just go for the skill shot and ended up missing it and missed out on the kill. Probably could have gotten that if he just sequenced his skills a little bit differently. Also had the Mobies, so maybe could have just continued running at him. So maybe could have just started auto attacking him and killing him. But regardless, a little bit of a mistake there from Sabin, but that said, he has been picking it up really well this game. Has been playing really well overall, even if maybe a small mechanical mistake there. As we're seeing yet another top lane trade, which these trades are going to get less and less interesting as the game goes on. Since, eventually, there's neither of them is going to do any damage.
KDR missing the death sentence. Ooh, unfortunate. Great tidal wave and bubble from Isazaya. Isazaya is going to go down, and Channel Crystal Arrow blown for. I think that was a little optimistic from Baekhyun. That Crystal Arrow was saving no one.
Yeah, Baekhyun, I think you kind of just have to think at that point you got to save it. Also worth noting, he is still going for the nerfed Blade the Ruin King build, as NA Best Teemo might be in a little bit of trouble here, but he is pretty tanky.
Yeah, Daisy coming down, and the root did go down as well. 1, 2, 3, coming out. There's the knock-up. NA Best Teemo's in trouble now, but he gets the hook into tower. Daisy, get him. All right.
Just like I was talking about earlier, when you try and gank this Nautilus when he doesn't have flash, you have to be behind him because otherwise he will just hook away. So even there, I don't even think Acvius necessarily needed to approach from behind, but he needed to walk behind him while they had him knocked up, while they had him slowed so substantially. I think they could have gotten that kill had they just, sequenced that a little bit better, walked behind him, and prevented him from getting that hook out. Another, sort of a free walk away for NA Best Teemo, but he will still lose his tower here. To Acvius and Villain taking that down.
Yeah, and during that time, NYT ended up taking Dragon. Oh, an engage here in the mid lane. I wanted to make a terrible hooker pun, but it looks like Zeta is going to possibly die here. Neko Waifu getting ulted, but the death sentence onto Zeta. Zeta's going to go down. Neko Waifu survives with a sliver of health.
Definitely ambitious for Zeta to go for that. He goes for the Death Mark Ignite, but doesn't have any skills up to actually try and hit Neko with anything, and then he doesn't have any, any way to deal any damage to him. So it kind of just has to hope that, he goes for the damage and says, I hope that this is enough, right? But it's just, it wasn't really even that close. I think Neko Waifu had like 100 extra HP left over, so really needed an extra auto attack there, or like an E or a Shuriken or something like that to get that kill. I understand, you're caught, you get. The Thresh is roaming mid, and you want to just try and trade back a kill. But now he has no kill pressure in lane at all. He's got no Ignite, no Ultimate. So this Ahri is just kind of going to be able to do whatever he wants. Neko is going to be able to bully this Zed pretty hard now that the Gunblade is completed. This is a really big spike. So one of the big problems with the Gunblade is that the build path, especially for APs like Ahri and like LeBlanc that are going for this build these days, the build path is just kind of abysmal. But once you finish it, it's a really expensive item. It's a really, really, really big spike. So Neko Waifu is probably going to be able to roam around the map and do whatever he wants at this point.
Now, do you think Neko Waifu should follow this up with a Lich Bane, or no?
Personally, I'm not a big fan of it. People do that on. Oh, as we're seeing Sabin maybe get caught here.
Sabin. A little bit of a optimistic engage, but it does result in the death of Zeta and possibly Acvius here. Acvius is exhausted at this point. Daisy coming out. Neko Waifu getting rooted up. Villain gonna have to come in. Neko Waifu flashing out. Villain goes in with a Justice Punch, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anything so far. It's a very long engage for not a whole lot.
That's a good example of where the Morellos would have been substantially better than the Gunblade, because if there was a Morellos there, the Spirit Rush would have been up for that engagement with the 20% extra CDR. So that's a good example of like, you're missing the CDR in that early game, so you don't have that constant, Spirit Rush cooldown always up. Or at least feels like it's always up if you're playing against it. So it's kind of unfortunate that Neko Waifu didn't have it. So maybe could have gotten an extra kill there, or maybe could have saved his flash at the very least. As KD are going to go for a hook here, but going a little wide.
Neko Waifu might be getting onto Baekhyun, but Baekhyun using the Enchanted Crystal Arrow onto him. Baekhyun is going to be the first one to go down to KDR, interestingly. But it's one for none.
Yeah, so I was talking about the disadvantages of not going Morello first. There's one of the advantages. Those rooms are very easy to make. It's very easy to set up those roaming plays because you have a lot more pressure in lane with this Gunblade, where the Zed actually fears your all-in pressure, your pressure. Wow, blind hook.
Kitty Hog with the blind hook.
Yeah, Isaiah, just kind of getting hooked. I mean, it's not a really big deal that he gets his back interrupted there, but it's nice. It's nice to see KDR going for a blind hook and hitting it. I like to see that. But let's look at some other itemization here. We're saying Saban's Lee Sin go for a black cleaver here. This is something that I always like to say. It's good when you're ahead, and it's really bad once you stop being relevant as a damage threat. So especially with the nerfs to Cleaver on this patch, Cleaver got a small nerf to its armor shred. This will be again something just like the Mobies that he's gotten. If he can make this work right now, make it turn into extra kills, extra pressure on the map, then it'll be worth it. But it's a really, really risky purchase.
Well, I correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that's especially because Lee Sin can't exactly reliably stack it on multiple targets. Like you can't have a sustained fight on Lee Sin where you can stack it on a lot of people. You go in, you stack it, and then hope they're dead by the end of it. Because yes, it does help Habibi Poppy's damage, but applying it puts you in such a dangerous position that if your itemization in terms of defenses is not sufficient, you just blow up.
Yep, the only ways you can apply it are, your Q, you can apply 2 stacks there, and then your ultimate applies 1 stack. But of course, if you're using your ultimate, the shred's probably not that relevant. Since his Tempest Cripple is magic damage, it does not apply Black Cleaver's shred. So it's not like an Urgot where you've got that physical damage over time that stacks it for you. It's not like a Darius again where you have physical damage over time that stacks it for you and gives you that move speed. It's not even necessarily like a Jace where you have that huge attack speed steroid. And all sorts of different ways you can do physical damage, so you can stack it really quickly on one person even. So yes, it is. It is an item that gives a lot of health, a lot of AD, so that is nice. And that's the main reason why people do build this on Lee Sin. But a lot of the other stats are not quite as useful for Lee Sin, like the shred and the CDR. We are seeing the Rift Herald go down here, and it looks like Saban will be taking that.
For the first time in years.
Yep, Rift Herald going down. In my opinion, taking the Rift Herald is worth about equivalent to a tower, because the Rift Herald will usually get you a tower, right? Regardless of what the health of the turret is, you can just sort of summon that thing in a lane and let it charge in, and it'll sort of wreck the tower for you, as they're seeing a charm land on Zeta. Maybe this is
Zeta might be going down here. Deathmark to dodge the second half of the Q there from Nekawaifu. Nekawaifu getting exhausted. Getting the... Oh! Zeta juking out with the shadows. Minions nearly taking him out, but not quite. It was a great play from him. Alright, let's see Budget Glisapod destroy this tower.
Boom. Almost half the HP in one shot. So you can see it's taking a lot of damage, though. But
that it is. KDR getting taunted up there, and it's not going to be a full tower yet. Death Sentence going down onto Acpheus, but Acpheus popping the Redemption there to negate all the damage. Backyard is about to be 1v1 by NA Best Teemo. Death Charge coming out. Can he get the kill before Backyard gets it? The Enchanted Crusader is going down. Healers come out. He has the flash out, and he dies! Oh no, it was looking so good for him for so long, and then suddenly Backyard just turned on the heat. Oh, Villain with the Flash Justice Punch into the taunt. KDR gonna shield himself sufficiently with that lantern of his, but Death Sentence on the Krug, that doesn't feel good.
Nope, and another tower going the way of ESP down in the bottom lane after NA Best Teemo did fall to Backyard. Probably shouldn't have gone for that trade. It's a classic mistake by these tank top laners. You go for the kill, you think you have it, you calculate your damage, you're like, you calculate their damage, you're like, okay, I can definitely do that, and then the AD carry just heals, and you just put in a really bad spot where there's no way for you to back out, and there's nowhere for you to go. I've made that exact same mistake before in that exact same matchup. Actually,
oh, Nekawaifu, what are you doing? The Flash, the Death Mark, but it's not enough. No one was expecting that engage. Good lord.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if the flash was strictly necessary, but it's certainly flashy as we're seeing Acpheus try and take the Raptors when he knows there's a bunch of people there. So
that
I'm not
was
sure about
cool
that one.
as hell, though. What the hell was that?
Oh, definitely very cool looking. I mean, the Flash Spirit Rush is a sweet play, but normally you would just approach that with the Spirit Rush and then kind of use the Flash later, but hey, I mean,
it does
worked,
eliminate reaction time, though. It's like the Malphite ult Flash in that regard.
Well, Malphite ult, you can't flash with the Malphite ult on, but it's like
do you
a
flash
Jarvan EQ
Malphite ult?
flash
Is that how?
like that.
Is that the ordering for that?
Well, Flash Malphite ult, you still ult, but yeah, I mean, you can flash to get yourself closer to them so that you don't have to have the travel time on your ultimate be as reactable, I guess, is the operative term or whatever.
What he
it's
said.
harder to react to, yeah. Yeah, I mean, in that case, yes, but you also have to consider that Neko still had an extra charge of his Spirit Rush afterwards, so probably didn't need to use that flash, especially considering Zeta. Zeta, like the ultimate, just there's no way that he kills Neko in that position. Also, we're seeing Neko is going for Morello's second. Haven't really seen this build. Not a big fan of it. It doesn't really seem like it's the way to go. I think if you're going to do a build like this, just go for like a Banshees or something like that afterwards, since that does give AP now. That just seems like the way to go. You'll also be very, pretty much invulnerable to the Galio and the Ivern if you do go for that Banshees. Also, respectably good against Zed, since Zed, a combo-based assassin. If you do have that Banshees up, it's very difficult for him to do much to you. Of course, in the lane, he can, sort of poke it out with an E or an Q or something, but of course, so.
God, that entire sentence to me was just like Paris syndrome for the Japanese. It was like, wait, Banshee's Veil AP? I can't handle this. Hold on.
Yep, and of course, Abyssal is a tank item. You can see, like I said, the Nautilus here has gone Abyssal Scepter first item. So that's increasing damage of the magic damage dealt to things near him by 10%, just like the old Abyssal passive. But it is a full tank item now, so it gives health, magic resist, and 10% CDR. So tank item, even though people think of it as an AP item, that will change over the coming months as people get used to it. As Neko takes a good chunk, but that is a big advantage of the Gunblade build. Have that sustain. He can maybe go, throw his Spirit Orb or Spirit Fire or whatever into the Raptors or something like that and get some sustain. Maybe go take that Crab and get his health back up so that he's not in as much threat from the Zed.
So, can we talk about Villain's build here for a second? Because what is it?
It's more of a Bruiser Galio build as opposed to a tank Galio build. This is definitely making more use out of that Thunderlords, as we're seeing hook onto Zeta. I think maybe they could have killed him there if Neko had just gone for a charm on him instantly, but didn't choose to commit it. Maybe didn't have it up, maybe had used it. There's the charm.
Oh. Well, in that case, it was probably good because Sabin was doing Dragon at that point, and you kind of just want to secure that. Oh, Sabin going in, getting the knockup, but oh no, that Justice Punch did a lot of damage. Now we see why it's the AP Bruiser build. Zeta having to jump out, but Sabin going down there, and it looks like NA Best Teemo is just alone against 3 here. 3 have already gone down for New York Timberlands, and it's just a massacre somehow. This fight was looking so good, but ESP just somehow turning it into their favor.
Yeah, ESP coming out on top, and that's that's sort of what you expect when the Lee Sin has a Black Cleaver and a Warrior, and he goes in for a close range kick like that, and just sort of gets exploded afterwards. Especially also missed the Q afterward, missed that Sonic Wave after going for that ultimate. It looks like they're thinking about this Baron. I don't know if they can really do this.
We just saw a throw about this in one of the other final series.
They have the redemption, but I'm a little skeptical. They don't have any damage. Tank. They don't have a ton of damage, and they don't have an actual tank. Sabin looks like he knows this is going on, and I think as soon as he shows up,
and there's the Farsight Totem. If they can catch this, they just get free kills, but it doesn't look like they're going to try for it.
Yeah, nice awareness there by NYT. Definitely, so that's something that you do see go unnoticed, especially lower ranked players. A lot, we don't realize they could just instantly rush the Baron, and if we don't respect that they could do that, even though it's not really the right call, you have to respect that they can do it, right? It's even if it's wrong, it doesn't mean that it can't work, right? If you don't respond to it properly. So it's good to see that they did respect the Baron call and use that Scrying Orb. Also, they've got double Scrying Orbs here on the side of NYT. Something that you normally only see when a team is really far behind, like double or triple Scrying Orbs. So they're only down about 3,000 gold. They may feel like they're down more, even though they are up 2 dragons as well as a kill. They are down 3 turrets, so that's where most of that gold disadvantage is coming from. So for NYT, if they can get some turrets, if they can rotate around the map and take out some of ESP's turrets, they can very easily get back into this game, despite losing that last fight pretty handily.
Yeah, hopefully they can clean up some of the slop from that team fight. I think the big thing was Villain just doing so much damage with that Justice Punch Colossal Smash combo into the Winds of War. It was just crazy. He Justice Punched into 3. You know?
It's worth noting, this is like I say it's a bruiser build, but at this point it's really more of a mage build, right? This is something you would see on a mage, right? This Abyssal Scepter gives mostly AP now. It's I believe 70 AP, and some amount of magic resist that I can't recall off the top of my head. No health or anything on that. The GLP, yes, it is yes, it does offer some help, but it's not a lot, right? So this is mostly just a mage build. It's like he's playing a mage top laner for the most part, even though I'm expecting him to continue building more tank items or more bruiser items.
Well, he's going for Leandrews next, it looks like. Oh,
I
and
believe
Crystal
that's
Arrow
actually
down onto KD Arg.
Rylance.
Habibi Papa using that ultimate to get himself out and trying to get KD Arg out, but KD was just dead.
Quick pick onto KD Arg, but yeah, that could be the build path for Leandrews or Rylance. It's hard to say until he either finishes it or picks up a Haunting Guise. Then we'll know. But regardless, pretty high damage build. And it definitely shores up the lack of magic lack of magic damage in their composition, since Ivern doesn't really do that much damage. Nobody else on the team does any magic damage. It is worth noting, though, if they do fall a little bit, if they falter, if they fall a little bit behind, or if they just continue at the same level of gold lead they currently have, or don't continue extending their gold lead here for ESP, it will be pretty easy for NYT to steamroll team fights once they have NA Best Teemo on the front line, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big reason they lost that last team fight, there were a variety of things that caused them to lose that team fight, but one big thing was NA Best Teemo TP'd in a little late, and he wasn't there on the front line in the very beginning, so he wasn't able there to soak up cooldowns and damage for his team. Once he's able to get into that front line and able to do that for Neko Waifu and Habibi Poppy, who do tons of damage, it'll be a lot easier for them to get off damage. It's also worth noting, this is a Habibi Poppy build that's really a super scaling build. It's not going to be good until it hits 3 items. Similarly, this Neko Waifu build isn't really a good team fighting build. It's more of a split pushing build. So we're waiting on more and more items from NYT, from the Timberlands, to really turn on their team fight power. Whereas on the other side for ESP, a lot of their builds are just very effective in team fights right now, like this Ashe build, this Blade the Ruined King Hurricane build. That's effective right now, right? The same thing with the Ivern, the early Redemption, the early Locket. These items are all very efficient, very effective now. Whereas their builds maybe don't scale as well as they do on the other side.
Right. Do you think this Galio build from Villain is going to bite him in the stony rear in a few minutes, or do you think it actually has potential as it scales? Because it looks like right now it's basically go in, eat maybe one cooldown before you immediately get blown up, and hope you did enough damage in the meantime.
I mean, I think this build is pretty bad. I'm not gonna try and mince words with this. I think the build is not good, but I can see how it would work. Is if you're able to sort of skirt on the edges of the team fight, maybe abuse these Ivern shields to turn yourself into a little bit more of a tank. I understand, if you do have the Ivern shields, you can afford to get a bit more damage, even if you're supposed to be, even if you're representing more of your team's tankiness rather than damage. I understand, yes, the Ivern shields help in team fights. Yes, he can get those shields, but you'd normally expect those shields to go more onto Zeta if he's going in, hard for the back line, or onto Baekhyun if he's, getting dove by something like a Nautilus ultimate or an Ahri or something like that, right? So the shields are just kind of better spent on other people. Whereas with this build, Villain is kind of going to need those Ivern shields. So, and there's like the Locket and the Redemption and stuff like that. As we're seeing a brush camp, but I don't think anybody on NYT is taking the bait. It doesn't look like they're even interested in checking this Baron at all.
This is a great way for NYT to get a free dragon.
Yeah, they could easily get this free dragon, but at the same time, now that they know they're not even interested in checking it at all, ESP is just going to go straight for this Baron, and they're going to have it unless, NYT looks at this. NA Best Teemo is checking it, but
TP coming down on the Daisy. They're not going to get there before this dies.
Daisy is almost dead, though, so they will be able to win this fight afterwards, most likely. As Saban might even get a steal.
Saban going for the steal. Who's going to get it? NA Best Teemo having to flash out in the backline, getting taken out. Baron goes down to the blue side. Akvi is taking it. Neko Waifu goes down as well. That's 3 down already for the red team, and it's just another terrible team fight result for NYT. ESP getting the better of that fight, and this isn't going to be game, but it's probably an inhib and dragon at least.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be able to pick up the Earth Dragon whenever they back off here. I suspect, they've got, 16 seconds on Saban. That's the first person up. They're easily going to be able to take an inhib here. I doubt they'll actually go for a Nexus turret. I think it would be incorrect to do so. They can easily just back out, get that dragon. But it looks like there's a split call here. Maybe they will try and go for these Nexus turrets. I think this is going to backfire. They may not end up being able to get the dragon now that they've committed to getting a Nexus turret.
They did get one. Are they going to go for a second? Zeta getting knocked out there. Villain going in. They're not able to fight it. Justice Punch stopping
Justice Punch
Saban.
blocks.
Taunt onto 2. Villain getting low. Those Abraham shields, like you said, going pretty well. Katie Arg already taken out. NA Best Teemo is sure to follow here. And it looks like that call actually turned out to be pretty good. They might just take the game. Neko Waifu, you gotta go in, buddy. Saban, you too. Akvi is getting taken out, as is Villain, but Backyaan is doing a ton of damage here in the backline. There's nothing anyone can do. The charm going down, Backyaan getting taken out. Zeta, you gotta get out of there, buddy. You can do it. Habibi Poppy getting bubbled up, so it looks like they might be able to get out of this. The flash charm is gonna land from Neko Waifu, and Isazaya is going down. Zeta the only one left for his team, but this is bad for NYT.
Yep, but the nice thing is if they go for the rush right now, they can get this dragon. They can guarantee themselves 3 dragons, and if they can hold out, that means that they have the Elder Dragon as an additional win condition. Whereas the Elder Dragon on the other side for ESP really means nothing. They just don't have any dragons to back it up. So as long as Zeta is not able to kill Saban here on the dragon or steal the dragon, which would obviously be pretty hard since Saban does have Smite. As long as they get this dragon, they do still have that Elder Dragon win condition, which notably, see this dragon is dying, assuming that it does go down to Saban. It's going to die around 31 minutes as Saban decides not to commit for the dragon. I think he needs Habibi Poppy to come down here and finish it with him, yeah. So that's what's going to happen. So they're going to take this dragon down at around 31 minutes, which means that the Elder Dragon spawn is going to be...
Oh. Okay.
All right.
That was the Dragon's Rage I didn't see the animation for. I was like, when's Zeta coming out of Deathmark? Oh!
Yeah, Zeta
He's
not
not.
using his Deathmark, not using his Flash, not using his Ignite. I guess in some ways I respect it. I say, okay, if you know you're going to go down, just don't use anything and have it up for next time. But at the same time, him going down there, maybe he could have flashed out. Maybe he could have Deathmarked to buy some time for his team to arrive.
I think he tried Deathmarking at the very end.
Oh, did he? And then he just got canceled by the getting killed or something like that?
I think that's what happened, because I saw him disappear, I think, and then I was like, when's he coming back? And then he became a corpse.
Well, sometimes that happens, but yeah, that's really unfortunate. Every death from ESP here costs them time, and all NYT needs is time, because they want to wait for this Elder Dragon to spawn. And as soon as Elder spawns, they can then use that to trade objectives. They can either get the Baron for the Elder, or they can trade away the Baron for the Elder. Either way is acceptable to them, whereas it's really, really, really bad on the other side for ESP, because the Elder means almost nothing for them, and the Baron is equally effective on both teams. So they're in a spot where, yes, their inhib is down, and yes, they're down a lot of gold, but because they have such a big dragon lead, they're actually not out of this game. They also have the superior scaling comp in some ways, not in others necessarily. Their jungler gets outscaled pretty heavily, and in some ways they don't have the best scaling comp, but they have a respectable enough scaling comp to the point of where they can do something as Neko Waifu gets
Waifu eats the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Deathmark has gone down. Neko Waifu is going to be the first one to go down in this fight, and it looks like Backyaan is going crazy on the backline, but he's going to get hit up by the depth charge. Habibi Poppy might be going down here. The Flay from Katie Arg. Saban getting low, and the Nexus is probably going to fall. NYT, what are you going to be able to do about it? They can't do anything. First game going to ESP. Whew.
Yeah, nice win there by ESP. That's the one thing that NYT had to respect if they wanted to go for that Elder Dragon win condition. You got to understand, you got no Nexus turrets. They can run down the middle of the lane, and if they can win a team fight, they'll kill your Nexus too. So definitely something they had to respect, and maybe didn't see that coming. But nice game overall. It was pretty close for most of the game. The ESP did have a small lead, which they sort of ballooned with a couple of one team fights in a row. Got that Baron, and after that Baron, I think pretty difficult for NYT to come back, even with the dragon lead that they had.
And Villain's build, was he memeing us? It's a blue build.
It is definitely a blue build. So, I respect builds that are all monochromatic.
I like the color coordination.
Yeah, I think he should have gone Spell Pen boots as well for the additional blue items.
Or CDR if he doesn't feel Spell Pen.
Yeah, maybe he should get a Blade of the Ruin King for his last item. I'm not sure, but maybe a Doran's Ring would have fit in there nicely. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll help him find best in slot later.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But regardless, I don't, I'm not a big fan of the build, but it worked out. So maybe he knows something I don't. Maybe there's some specific thing he was looking to do in this matchup or something like that that he wanted to do with this build. Personally, not a big fan. Think a tankier build would have been better, but certainly was doing a lot of damage. Certainly was very effective in those team fights. So you got to respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be taking a break here in between games 1 and 2 while the teams get resettled. I'm going to put on some music. Hope you guys enjoy during the break, and we'll see you back in a few minutes. All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Champion Select for Game 2 for the NA Finals for the April 2017 season of Learning Fives between ex-semi-pro and New York Timberlands. I'm Nibiria. I'm joined here by N-Step. How are you today, End?
I am still great. We're still seeing the targeted Alawi ban against villains, so not going to be seeing that come out in this game. Maybe in Game 3 if there is one. We'll see. But pretty great so far.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how Villain spices up the Alawi build. Perhaps Death Dance into Eye Edge into Bloodthirster. For the one-shot ult build. I'd like to see that.
The one-shot potential. No, I think that the build is pretty similar to what people were expecting from before, where you have those three core items, which are Black Cleaver, Death Dance, and Sterex Gauge. Now you just kind of usually delay that Sterex Gauge until later, or you can get it as a third item if you really want to, but it's not quite as efficient as it was before, right when you buy it. So that's kind of unfortunate. It does give more damage though, so that's nice. It's more great bands, same bands we were seeing last games. It doesn't look like either team has decided to deviate yet, which is a little bit weird. You'd normally expect Timberlands to sort of shake things up in the pick and ban phase. Maybe they're just going to pick some different things rather than ban different things. They're saying their bans were good, and it was maybe the picks or the play. But the Ivern ban, that is a difference. They don't want Akvius on the Ivern, even though he fell pretty far behind in the early game. They're saying the team fighting strength, the mid game, that early redemption, that early locket, they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, and honestly, I sympathize. I definitely don't like playing against Ivern with the billion shields, but I feel like it was a pretty large factor in those late team fights, especially when Villain was going in with the burst damage and was unable to die because of them.
Yeah, the shields definitely were very effective in that game, even though, Akvius did have some unfortunate deaths in the early game. Priority on Lee Sin for Sabin. I think that makes a lot of sense. Sabin was really, really, really effective on that Lee Sin in the early game last game, and it felt like that was most of the reason why they were, so close in gold, even though they were so far down in turrets for such a large portion of that game. So I definitely like the priority on the Lee Sin for Sabin, but I think that he needs to respect the fact that he needs to not go full damage Lee Sin, right? Like that was part of the reason why it was so hard for NYT to mount any kind of significant comeback. Now, obviously, there were a lot of other factors too, because they just didn't have the time to get the items that they needed, and they just down too many turrets, and they also just were too late to that Baron. They just, had some bad team fights. But even so, right, that Lee Sin build, the Black Cleaver, the full damage second item, like I'm not a big fan of it. I think if you're going to get another damage item, just slap on the Hex Drinker and then go right into that Dead Man's Plate, right? The Hex Drinker gives you a respectable amount of extra damage, but it doesn't lock you into that huge second item that costs a ton of gold that isn't really that efficient for tanking.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm a big fan of the Hex Drinker builds where you get that little bit of extra AD, but it's not so much that you're committed to a huge amount of gold investment, like the Phage does, and then you have to build this whole second damage item. So Kha'Zix for Akvius and a Karma for Isizaya. Nice to see the Karma. The Karma is pretty lane dominant, just like the Nami he played last game. Kind of weird to see him not go with the Nami because that seemed really effective last game as well. So the Karma I do think is a slightly better champion right now, but the Nami seems like it worked really well, but he's going to switch it up. There's a small possibility it is a lane Karma. Zeta could play that in the mid lane, or Villain could play it in the top lane. It is something that has been seen, but it's definitely more popular as support. Gragas here for NA Best Teemo. It's a nice blind pickable top laner, good against the tanks, good against the bruisers, good against the carries. Just has generally good matchups across the boards. Zyra for KDRG. It's a good matchup into the Karma. It's slightly favored towards that Zyra, but it is very risky, and if you do fall behind as the Zyra lane, you are very vulnerable to just getting all into by the Karma over and over again and killed. Mm-hmm. Of course, it depends on the AD carry matchup as well, and what else gets picked in this game. But yeah, I like the Zyra as a pick here. It's nice to set up gank for this Lee Sin as well. Sabin may be able to come down and visit the bottom lane against this relatively immobile Karma. If that Zyra can land a root on the Karma from Isizaya, you can maybe have that Lee Sin come in and pick her off.
Well, this Kha'Zix, though, is about all I can say right now. I feel like Kha'Zix is pretty hard to execute on I mean, even normally, but especially against a Gragas, Lee Sin, Zyra, who have so much lockdown, burst, and just generally get you away from them in their kits. You know, Zyra has a knock-up and a root. Gragas has technically a knock-up, but more like a stun, and then a knockback and a slow. Lee Sin has a knockback and a slow. It's just... I know those weren't picked when Kha'Zix was first picked. The Lee Sin was, but what can Axios expect to accomplish on this pick? Because it is so reliant on getting someone isolated. I don't feel like that's an easy task.
Well, I mean, the point of the Kha'Zix right now isn't necessarily to, find the isolated people and just pick them off by yourself. One of the big things with Kha'Zix is people are doing that spike rack evolution second. They're going for that early shot, the shots that give you a massive slow when someone is isolated, and that's where your pick potential comes from. Not so much the damage of Kha'Zix. People are going for more bruiser style builds where you get that, you get that warrior into like Black Cleaver into Dead Man's Plate or something like that. Like that's a very popular Kha'Zix build right now. And those tankier, the tankier, even now on this patch, GA, because it gives 40 AD and 30 armor. And I'm being told now that apparently the Gragas was a placeholder for Gnar. So we're going to be seeing the Gnar for NA Best Teemo in the top lane into this Galio this game. But yeah, going back to the GA, like normally people go for these tankier Kha'Zix builds, and then you just go for the ability to spam out your spikes, and as soon as you land one of those on an isolated target, it slows for a massive amount. I believe it's 80%, and then you use that to allow your team to catch up to the slowed target, and they pick them off for you in addition to your damage, right? So it's not necessarily just you trying to jump on someone who's alone and kill them 100-0. It's more about that big slow helping your team catch up to them.
Well, if that's the case, what do you expect for the Keystone? Because yes, Thunderlord still does burst, but something that Shaco saw for a while was running Storm Raiders over Thunderlords. Do you expect to see something similar on this Kha'Zix that is built more around slowing and prepping for the team so that he can chase more, or still Thunderlords?
So the Storm Raiders, the issue with running Storm Raiders on the the second evolution of being W, style of Kha'Zix that people are running these days, the problem with it is that when you have Storm Raiders, you need to do a certain threshold of damage to actually trigger it. And with that build, you're usually not doing that damage from range. You're usually only getting that level of damage if you're jumping in on them and using your Taste Their Fear, the Q, to do massive isolated damage. And at that point, it's likely that you don't necessarily need the speed so much. So you typically still see the Thunderlords. There are situations where the Storm Raiders would be fine. And I think it would be okay this game because it would allow him to mitigate a lot of these slows. There are a lot of slows from NYT this game. But I still think overall it's going to be better to just run that Thunderlords. So we'll see what Axios does decide to go with. And we did see a lot more, even more CC locked in for NYT, by the way. The Varus was locked in, which we didn't even talk about, but the Varus does make team fights a lot harder to navigate for that Kha'Zix, since he can zone you from a whole area, in addition to potentially hitting you with the ultimate. And if that happens, the Kha'Zix is in a lot of trouble. So there's definitely going to be a lot of danger to navigate for Axios, but it's also potentially a really strong pick if he can get ahead.
So I know I'm fixated on the Kha'Zix here, but I just feel like it's going to be one of the linchpins of the match to see which way it goes. What do you do in team fights? Because you can't just wait for isolation, I feel like, especially if you're going like a bruisery kind of build. Do you just smack the 80 carry and hope you don't die, or...
Well, you got to kind of, you got to manage things, sort of as they come, right? You have to fire those void spikes out, try and hit priority targets if you can. You can try and go for frontline to some degree, right? Kha'Zix does have, with that very low cooldown on his Taste Their Fear, he does have some sustained damage. He's not useless just attacking a tank or something like that. So it's possible that, you see NA Best Teemo commit to the fight, and then you'll see Axios try and in Mega Gnar, once the Mega Gnar, the Gnar is down, Axios maybe try and go onto him and do some damage to him while he's in Mega Gnar form. But I don't know. This is the Fizz for Zeta, by the way, into the Syndra, the counter matchup Definitely favored towards Fizz, but it is a matchup that we have seen Syndra's win in the past in competitive play. If Sabin is able to get in here and get a lead for Nekawefu, or if Nekawefu is able to get an advantage early on somehow by himself, if he's able to outplay Zeta in some way, once that advantage goes over to the Syndra in this matchup, it is something that's very difficult for the Fizz to take back. So we're looking to see Nekawefu and Sabin maybe make a play onto Zeta early to try and get an advantage so that they can climb back into the series. On the other side for ESP, we're looking for them to snowball lanes. This Fizz can win lane 1v1. The Galio, you don't want to lose too hard to the Gnar. This is a lane matchup that is expected that the Galio will lose. And the bottom lane, we're expecting Baekhyun and Isazaya to win this lane in 2v2 to some degree. The Lucian and the Karma to have a strong early 2v2 and up until level 6 for Varus and Zyra, where they will start taking over the 2v2. But yeah, both teams are definitely looking to make plays on the map even early on, with this Lee Sin and this Kha'Zix. So this definitely looks like it'll be an interesting one.
Right, and you were commenting a little bit on the bot lane matchup there, but I want to comment a little further on it because, of course, we were all, well, the older of us remember the Season 3 Cloud9 strat of Ashe Zyra every game because of the great ultimate synergy. Now, Varus and Zyra have something sort of similar, but is there a significant difference in their play pattern as a result of it being Varus instead of Ashe? Because Varus does have more poke with the Q, but his builds, I think, as of late, after the Blade of the Ruined King changes, have become more auto-attack focused. So do you still try and play safe until 6? Is this potentially a lane that Sabin has access to gank often because they're playing so safe?
So, going back to that, the Ashe Zyra, the typical way you play Ashe Zyra is you just try and not fall too far behind pre-6, then level 6, you combo your ultimates, you either force all their summoners, or at the very least, you try and force double flash, or you get a kill. Then you just keep doing that because your ultimates are, of course, a lower cooldown than their summoners until you get an advantage in lane, and then you can climb back up in CS because of that advantage that you generate through the use of your extremely powerful ultimates. Yes, the Varus Zyra lane works mostly the same way. The early laning, I would say, is it's in a pretty similar spot. But the nice thing about the Varus as opposed to the Ashe is because of that Q, he does have a little bit more potential to trade early on. The Ashe, of course, she can do something like auto volley, auto. But that's really hard to get access to. Say if the Zyra just gets a nice route onto the Karma or the Lucian somehow. The Varus can usually get a trade in there. The E and the Q, the piercing arrow, and the bladed quiver shot, so you can potentially get in a really nice quick trade, which is something that Zyra Ashe has a little bit of a lack of. The big advantage is that the level 6 spike from the Ashe Zyra is really, really, really powerful, even more powerful than the Varus Zyra spike at level 6. So it's sort of like a trade-off of a little bit of better early laning with the Varus Zyra as opposed to Ashe Zyra, but a little bit worse level 6. So either way, it's plays very, very, very similarly, but overall it's mostly the same. Just a little bit of difference in power levels and at certain spikes.
All right, well, we'll see how these matchups play out in about a minute and a half here. We're going to go on break, enjoy the music, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to Game 2 of the NA Tournament Finals for the April 2017 season for Gold and Above. We have on the blue side, NYT, the New York Timberlands, featuring NA Best Teemo on the top lane, Sabin in the jungle, Neko Waifu in the mid lane, Habibi Poppy on AD carry, and KDR on support. I just realized I didn't introduce them last game. And on the red team, for X-Semi-Pro, we have Villain in the top lane, Akvius in jungle, Bakyon on AD carry, Isazaya on support, and Zeta in the mid lane. I am Niberia. I'm joined still by N-Step. Hi, End.
How's it going? Looks like we're seeing a bit of a big invade here. I'm not sure if they were spotted yet. I'm not sure that Habibi Poppy actually saw them there, but it does seem like they're probably not going to end up getting anything because Sabin is in the right position to know that they're there. So Sabin now knows that someone's there. They have been spotted despite no wards going down. Another big level 1 invade, and they're just going to lurk here, I guess, and maybe they're going to go for another similar play. Seems a little ambitious to me.
Yeah, it looks like they were trying for like the delayed invade after they got pinged out and chased away the jungler. Not usually that doesn't result in anything happening, but considering how my ranked 5s usually go, we've done things stupider than that and gotten more kills, so it was worth a shot at the very least. You don't really lose anything by doing that, except maybe some early positioning and defense against wards, but not a huge deal. Oh.
Sabin is looking at this red buff here. Let's see what's going on. He knows it's being done now, so I'm guessing he's going to back up since he doesn't have the support of his laners. That is going to give an advantage to NA Best Teemo in this matchup. He now knows that the Galio isn't going to be there for a while, and Akvius is getting pretty chunked by this buff. He might have backed off of it when it was hit by that sonic wave, but this does give a big advantage to NA Best Teemo, and he is going to be able to bully this matchup early on. Maybe not super early because it does take a few levels for Gnar to scale up, but getting that lane shove level 1 does mean he has the early XP advantage, which is really important for him to get, especially into a matchup like Galio, where Galio can easily shove the wave back into the Gnar. Having access to that wave about 5 or 6 seconds faster, even that can give him enough time to shove in the wave, and he had significantly more time than that. So lots of trades in the bot lane, and it looks like Akvius just went red directly to blue, so he's only level 2 right now.
Oh, but he might be going for the level 2 invade.
Looks like he's going to go for this cheesy invade onto the red buff for Sabin.
I like it.
I mean, the thing with Kha'Zix is it seems a little weird to me to go for this. Kha'Zix maybe do it.
The dirty first blood.
Yep, had to commit the flash because, like I was about to say, Kha'Zix at level 2 doesn't have access to the full kit, doesn't have the jump and the full damage combo, so he went for the full damage combo so that he could make sure he'd kill Sabin, but did have to commit the flash to finish the kill.
Oh, KDR might actually be the one to go down here. Oh, exhaust coming out.
Yeah, the Dragon's going to do a lot of damage to him.
Double buff onto KDR. Zeta might be able to get the double buff in return. He does. Neko Waifu might go down here as well. Zeta got exhausted, but exhaust is expired by this point. Neko Waifu is going to get the kill onto Zeta and won't fall to ignite. Habibi Poppy. Oh no, Isazaya! Look out! Gets away just barely.
Not quite going to finish the kill, but really nice sequence of plays there from NYT. I think they did a good collapse there. Really nice.
Oh no!
As we're seeing a lot of damage here come onto Isazaya.
Oh,
is he going to go down there? I don't think so. Okay. Looks like things have cooled off a little bit here. Yeah, I think we're good. But yeah, it was a really nice play by KDR to aggro the dragon as well as hit that Q onto Akvius. That dragon, did almost half of Akvius' health there. Right, it was a huge amount of damage, and without that damage, that fight would have gone really, really, really poorly for NYT. So, it's nice to see some cool plays coming out, like the dragon, helping out NYT there, NYT dragon. So
that was
lots of damage. No justice punch connecting. Worth noting, Villain is running a little bit low on mana here. This is another matchup where resource space champion into a resourceless one. If the Gnar is able to run Villain out of mana, that's going to force his TP, and then once you've done that, you can start to bully him and you can start to gain an advantage in the lane.
Oh, so, Sabin coming in, but Bakyon might get lane. Oh no, Bakyon didn't get the kill and he goes down, as does Isazaya. Sabin with a great gank, telling his laners to go in perhaps, and
Bacon just had both of his summoners up there and chose not to use them. Could have definitely lived if he'd healed and flashed out there. So sort of, I guess, overconfidence or maybe just misunderstanding exactly how much damage he was about to take. Definitely should have just healed there, as NMS Timo kind of just tanked a huge amount of damage there. But Nekawaifu looks like he's in a lot of trouble. He's got no summoners. He's got nowhere to run.
Oh, but Saban's there for the counter gank, as is KDR. Axius gets taken out, and now there's 3 in the mid lane. Villain going for a flash justice punch. He's going to miss it. Gets the taunt, though. Might be able to kill NMS Timo, but NMS Timo gets Mega Gnar. Oh! And a brick comes down onto Villain's head.
Housed. Got him with the house. Really, really big advantages here. And this is looking really good for NYT. They're already up almost 2,000 gold. In this early game, and it looks like they might even be able to take first tower here. Isazaya is looking to stop him from getting it, but this is a lot of damage under the turret very, very early in the game, and mid tower going down this early would be a huge, huge, huge boost for NYT. Not only the first turret blood, but also just the ability to free Nekawaifu up, and Nekawaifu got the solo gold for that. 650 gold going directly to Nekawaifu. That is a huge boost. So when he gets back and he goes to shop, he's going to come back to lane with a massive item lead.
Well, this early game is just ridiculous for NYT right now. They have a 3k gold lead exactly at 6.5 minutes. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, something I'd like to point out, Nekawaifu right now has almost 3,000 gold. Zeta has about 2,000. He has a almost 50% gold lead on his lane opponent. As it looks like he's probably going to die here, but
the
level 6 coming out. And he's even going to get away.
Good lord. All right.
Huge plays from Nekawaifu now. Turning that gank around with that early level 6 onto Zeta. Zeta not having the Playful Trickster, I think, or maybe just didn't have enough mana to use it. Not really clear on exactly why he couldn't just Playful Trickster that. Ultimate, that's one of the big reasons why Fizz is considered a counter to Syndra. But like I said in Champion Selects, when Syndra gets an advantage in this lane matchup, it is very difficult to get her to let it go, right? It's very, very, very snowbally matchup, even though, Fizz does have the advantage. Now, it's going to be very easy for Nekawaifu to just roam around the map, pick up kills, slaughter people left and right. And there's really not much that Fizz can do other than try and hit level 6, try and hit a Shark with maybe Acvius, and maybe even more than just Acvius coming in, because at this point, there's a very high chance that if Acvius tries to gank this mid lane, Nekawaifu will just turn a kill onto somebody. So, Zeta does get a good trade there, but mostly just due to Nekawaifu missing a bunch of skill shots.
Yeah, that tends to be the easiest way to lose a trade. But, Double Doran's, Fiendish Codex, and, oh god, what's the mana one? Lost Chapter, there it is. I remember.
Lost Chapter, nice pickup. Will be like a little bit of, a little bit less powerful than he could be, until he finishes that Morello Nomicon.
Exhaust going down, Zeta's gonna get taken out.
He's gonna die.
That's,
really nice that Shark. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but Saban did take that Shark for Nekawaifu. Probably would have killed Nekawaifu with the the Seastone Trident damage as well as the Shark damage coming out. Even at the close range, that Seastone Trident does apply when you hit them with the Shark. So even at close range when the Shark doesn't do that much damage, the Seastone Trident at least will do a respectable amount. So nice that Saban did tank that for Nekawaifu. And again, just more and more advantages going over to Nekawaifu this time. As Acvius is not, they know that he's there now since they did see that Void Spike, but not going to get caught this time.
Oh, Hyper is magic damage, I just realized. So that's pretty good for Villain. Oh, Backyard having a flash heal out. Saban might be eating some damage here, but not going to go down.
Big trade of summoners there. Flash from Saban, heal from Habibi Puppy. Traded for 3 summoners from Baekhyun, the heal and flash, and the exhaust from Isazaya. So positive summoner trade for NYT, and it does look like they're taking over this early game.
Yeah, and Nekawaifu in that little trade we saw a snippet of there, playing really smart with the ultimate use, knowing that Playful Trickster was off of cooldown, not using it immediately. Well, not using it at all. But
right now, what I would like to see from Nekawaifu is he should either be immediately basing or going for a roam, and he really hesitated there, and he's just going for mid lane vision control, which he already has enough of. I think he's the pink on the top side, and knowing that Acvius has to be bottom side, he could have just strayed the top side and would have been fine if he wanted to stay in lane.
Ooh.
But I would have really liked to see a roam there because he's not going to be getting this turret as the Chain of Corruption does miss there from Habibi Puppy. That would have been a kill for sure had that hit, but. I would have really liked to see a roam come out from Neko Wifu, because imagine Neko Wifu coming from behind the turret right now. Could have easily been there, 10, 15 seconds ago, right? If he'd gone for that roam, that would have been a dead Baekhyun there, right? So that roam could have easily come out, and that, part of what, that early mid tower going down, as opposed to just like an early bot tower and an early top tower, that frees up your mid laner to roam, especially when they're winning lane this hard. So I think it was a mistake there not to go for that roam, but Sabin is looking for a play. The thing is, Isazai is not even going to stick around, so they're just going to try and force this turret and maybe go for another turret lead in the bot lane. We'll see if they're able to get it. Baekhyun is coming, and his culling is going to be up by the time he gets back to lane, so he might be able to cull out one of these waves.
Well, if nothing else, they can turn on the Dragon here, which I think would be a smart play, considering they're already going for the objective-focused game. And Mountain Drake, which is the one that's currently up, makes that a whole lot easier. So it looks like they are going to rotate, or at least Sabin's going to go into that area.
Yep, Habibi Puppy getting cutlassed there by Baekhyun, so Cutlass is going to be down for a little bit. As we're seeing the Shark, does not look like it hit Neko Wifu there, considering he's at full HP. I'm going to go ahead and say probably didn't tank the Shark.
I don't think Syndra has that much inbuilt sustain, by which I mean she has none. So I'm tending to agree with you. Unless we see the rare Gunblade Syndra, which sounds just awful, which means I should do it.
Does not sound great. I mean, it would give you some extra kill potential, I guess. That Gunblade active would be nice. The AD, maybe not so much. But Villain, tank some damage here from NA Best Teemo. A little bit of a weird build here from NA Best Teemo. We did go for a Spectre's Cowl first. Nice defensively, but you normally expect to see this Gnar run, offensive itemization. Xaxfius, unlucky there, got tagged not only by the slow, almost gets taken out there by Neko Wifu, but got tagged by the slow and revealed because of that shimmer that he was there by the W from Neko Wifu. So wasn't able to really do anything. Not really even, convinced that was a good play in the first place, but definitely unfortunate the way it worked out for him.
Yeah.
Zeta is getting chunked pretty hard under the turret. He's going to have to back off, and this might even be an inner mid turret taking a lot of pressure. Not sure they're going to be able to kill it, but taking damage and a lot of CS denied here from Zeta, and Zeta is just going to fall further and further behind.
Yeah, and he's going for the Lichbane there, and unfortunately for him, he has the Dark Seal, which isn't really doing a whole lot right now, because he had to pick up the Doran's Ring anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Dark Seal here. It's a nice non-committal purchase since the sellback value is so good. As we're seeing, EST is waiting in the wings here. Maybe they're thinking about going for a contest here, but I'm not convinced they really want this. Even though Habibi Puppy isn't that close, he's close enough, I think, to start doing some things from the side here with his Kitchen Eruption.
The Dragon does go to NYT, and it looks like Axius is going to go down to Sabin. This is a bad fight for ESP now. Baekhyun using the culling, but it looks like Zeta goes onto the backline onto Sabin. KDR going to be the next one to fall. Habibi Puppy and KDR both in the winds of war. Taunt going down onto KDR. Flash from Zeta. Habibi Puppy has Ignite on him. Is he going to be able to make it out? He uses heal. Zeta gonna kill him finally. And Isazaya gonna have to run away from NA Best Teemo. NA Best Teemo losing Mega Gnar now, but that might be in his favor because Hyper gives him a lot of mobility here. Taunt coming out from Villain, but that's in favor of NA Best Teemo, who gets the Hyper stacks. So it's, I think, 3 for 2 all told? Or 3 for 3?
Not entirely sure what that was. They ended up, NYT ended up picking up that Dragon Zeta almost gets nailed by that. That would have been probably a kill going over to Neko. But the issue was they went for that Dragon. They didn't quite force it hard enough. They didn't have Habibi Poppy there to help DPS the Dragon as well. That's some damage onto Baekhyun. But they didn't have Neko in the mid lane, and they didn't have Habibi Poppy DPSing the Dragon. So they were sort of in this position where they don't have their strong team member, so they gave a lot of time for ESP to respond to the Dragon because they had a ward on it. They knew it was being done, but they also didn't have their super strong mid laner to come collapse instantly. So they ended up losing the fight by a small amount. Picking up the Dragon, though, obviously making it worth it, as Axius looks like Sabin doesn't exactly want to go in on that, which I say is probably a wise decision. Probably not going to take that guy under the turret, even though, at this point, Sabin's going to win 1v1 against Axius, assuming that he gets the jump on him, like he did there with that Sonic Wave coming out. It's not exactly the fight that he wants under the turret.
I will say, though, that was the sickest blind Sonic Wave I've ever seen to get the reveal.
Yeah, on the stealth target. He did know he was there because KDR did have vision of Axius before he used the ultimate, but was still blind to some degree since, of course, he was invisible at the time.
And playing Lee Sin, so double blind, Well,
naturally, you just have to assume everything is blind on Lee Sin. Makes it all the more impressive.
Absolutely,
So
man.
let's say just take a brief look at itemization here, as it looks like NYT is going for this turret to kill here. Not sure if they're going to be able to get it, but it looks like ESP is going to concede the turret, which I think is the right call here. Not really sure why Villain's walking back up, because I don't think he can do much. Well, looks like actually I guess he got a good bit of damage on NA Best Teemo, but on this next wave, they are going to be able to get this. Looks like Zeta is going for a flank, but I don't think they really want this flank since they are a 4v4, or a 4v5.
Is MIT going to back off here?
So I'm really surprised.
I feel like they can take it.
Even consider backing this up. They can just
Winds
avoid
of
the
War
shark
hurts,
now,
though.
and Winds of War is a powerful one. They're losing turrets on the other side of the map. Sabin has base, but I'm not sure that ESP know that. I'm pretty sure that they don't have any idea that he's there. So it looks like Sabin may be able to get a cheese kill onto Baekhyun here when he walks past this bush.
He's going to go for it. Knocks him under tower. Misses the Q, but he's going to get the E down. But Sabin's going to go down.
Could have gotten that kill if he fired the Sonic Wave a little bit faster. He was too hesitant on it, and that allowed Baekhyun to get that Relentless Pursuit to dodge it. If you execute that combo properly, it is actually not possible to dodge the Sonic Wave, but it was a little bit too slow in execution. Ended up going down, even though he got the nice kick, got the surprise onto Baekhyun, but Baekhyun was able to survive anyway, even without using the flash, without using the heal, committed the flash, and unfortunate thing for him is he wasn't able to keep pushing the turret, so was only able to pick up one turret for that, and
the stun goes down. He's just gonna die here. No, the heal saving him from the unleashed power. Neko Waifu using the flash exhaust down there, and NA Best Teemo going to, I think, repel and engage from Zeta, it looked like.
Yep, and 2 summoners for 1, but Neko Waifu ends up picking up the kill, so he's probably thinking that was worth it. Going back to the itemization I was talking about, so we're looking at, of course, keep fighting, so I can't talk about itemization. Isazaya, picking up the CDR boots, did the same thing on Nami last game, didn't really talk about it, but it is something that gives you more in-combat power, since it does give you that in-combat movement speed. As opposed to the Mobies that you often see on supports, has more in-combat movement speed and more in-combat relevance, since it gives you that fast 10% CDR and summoner spell cooldowns for more exhausts, more flashes, things like that. So definitely nice in some respects, as we're seeing NYT really committed to this top turret. It looks like they'll get it here. Yeah, they'll take it finally, as the Shark lands on Nakadiarg.
Ooh, gonna blow up there, and soon to follow is NA Best Teemo. He gets the heal down onto him from Habibi Poppy. Habibi Poppy getting exhausted there. NA Best Teemo somehow surviving the kick onto Isazaya. Isazaya is incredibly low, and Villain ended up going down. Baekhyun going onto Habibi Poppy. Habibi Poppy getting shielded by Sabin. Sabin's gonna have to run away here as Baekhyun gets a kill, and Neko Waifu in the mid lane getting engaged on by Acvius, flashing in, getting the kill, and it's just massacres all over the map. A 3-for-1 globally in favor of ESP. Whew.
Yeah, it just seems like in these skirmishes, in these team fights, it doesn't really feel like NYT can compete with ESP. Even though they had a really big advantage early on, they were able to get that macro game, get that mid turret down early. It feels like they just don't have the team fighting power, the skirmishing power, maybe the mechanics necessarily to out team fight ESP. And so they're just ends up losing, even though it feels like maybe their macro game is a little bit stronger, and they are able to focus down these turrets a little bit more, a little bit more quickly, a little bit more accurately than on the other side. Mechanically, it just doesn't feel like they're quite the match of ESP, and so they're going to have to figure something out to maybe overcome that disadvantage.
Zeta picking up the Rift Herald for his team, so hopefully we see NYT adjust their strategies, because, as you said, the team fights are just not really working out for them, and that was the pattern last game as well. And if you can't win team fights with as big a lead as they had before that last fight, you need to adapt your strategy as such.
Yep, and it's worth noting, that Dark Seal you pointed out on Zeta earlier, and I said it was a nice, non-committal purchase. It's up to 7 stacks right now.
Yeah, now we know why.
If it doesn't work out, you just sell it. It has a really good sell back value, and so it's not really a big commitment. But if you do start getting in this position like he is right now, where you pick up some kills, you get those sharks down, you get some kills, you get an assist, you start snowballing. Yeah, that just makes your snowball that much harder, that you get that extra AP for those kills and assists. And at this point, he could sell it and it wouldn't even be a big deal, right? Like, it's, again, that sellback value is so high. So it just feels like it's not much of a commitment to purchase that item on these really, really efficient, snowballing assassins. And Zeta is channeling the Rift Herald. I don't think that's what he wanted when there's no minion wave here. I'm not really convinced that that's the optimal way to use this. Even though they probably will get the turret, it just doesn't feel like that was the best way to use the Rift Herald. I think they could have gotten that turret anyway without using the Rift, and maybe could have used it on another turret that would have been more difficult to get.
Perhaps not the best play, but you know what? Sometimes you have to do something that's a little suboptimal just to get what you're looking for, and they were looking for the tower there, evening up the gold a little bit. Only down by 1k before, as they were down, I think we said 3 to 4k by the about 8-minute mark.
Yep. Worth noting, of course, they are down 2 dragons at this point, and there are 2 really nice dragons, the Earth and the Fire Drake, coming out for NYT. So maybe they can take advantage of those to like take a really fast Baron or something like that. So maybe we'll see that come out from NYT. And as we're seeing, NABest Teemo turning back a lot of damage on Zeta. And NABest Teemo, I don't think trying to go in on him there made a lot of sense from Zeta, because this is a Gnar with Frozen Mallet. Once he gets an auto attack on you, you have to flash out. And that's exactly what happens. It had to flash out away from the Gnar, and we're seeing another turret probably go the way of NYT. Maybe not quite the finish, as Habibi Poppy.
Oh,
I don't think he's surviving. Yep. Acvius picking up a lot of these isolated kills with his Kha'Zix. You know, something you were worried about in the pre-game when we were looking at the champs. Like, you know, even if maybe it's not the optimal composition, as the Shark does miss here, but
Culling going in.
NABest Teemo has flash. He might be able to make it out of here. I think the flash might be necessary.
Oh, great flash timing, but Zeta with the troll pull, as it's called colloquially. Acvius getting a little bit low, but it looks like his top laner is going to come save him, and Sabin on the back foot, Backyaan picking up the kill. Now 3-3-2 when he was, I believe, 0-1-2 at one point. So
yeah, Sabin had an opportunity to get that kill, but he missed the final Sonic Wave. Would have gotten that kill there at the end had he hit it, but unfortunately didn't get it. It looks like ESP's thinking about doing another Risk Baron. There is a huge Syndra coming in here, though, and I don't know if they really want to try and threaten this against this massive Syndra. You know, maybe, yes, they've had a lot of success in the recent past, but this Syndra is still absolutely massive, and this is not going to go well, I don't think.
Unless Syndra gets blown up like she almost did. Exhaust going down onto Zeta, going to be taken out. Neko Waifu is possibly dying to ignite here. NABest Teemo trying to catch Acvius on the backline here. Might be able to get him. Gets him with the last auto. Neko Waifu incredibly low, has to base, and they can push down mid here.
I'm surprised that they didn't commit to trying chasing those kills in their jungle, since I don't think they're going to be able to get much. Maybe NABest Teemo can clean up that top turret, so maybe that's what they're thinking. They can get some pressure on turrets instead of going to chase those kills. But maybe, you know, in that situation, I feel like that's a situation where you want to send one person to chase the kills, make it so they maybe can't base, and then get the turrets for free. As we're seeing the Chain of Corruption land, but they don't have the follow-up on Bacon, so even though they're going to get 2 turrets, they're not going to be able to follow up onto that kill. So less than they maybe wanted there.
Oh, Habibi Poppy. Was it 2 Cutlass uses from Backyaan there?
No, it was one from Habibi Poppy himself, and the other one from Backyaan back onto Habibi Poppy.
Both of them look like better from him.
Caught in the jungle. Didn't you manage to use the Gnar before he ran out of his ult? And another missed Shark from Zeta, though. But Best Team doesn't have flash this time, and I don't think he's going to be able to turn this kill.
Yeah. Trying to go
a little bit of an overstay there from NABest Teemo. So going back to itemization changes, or itemization and changes in 7.9, we're seeing the full penetration build, the flat pen build here from Neko Waifu. This is a build that was massively nerfed on this patch. So again, you know, it's probably part of the reason why Neko Waifu, even though he's massively ahead, maybe seems like he's not doing quite as much damage as he normally would have. So the big change with 7.9 in regards to the full penetration magic build, or magic penetration builds, is that all champions in the game now have some amount of magic resist per level in their kit. Before, some melees, some select melees like Kassadin and like Yasuo, for example,
and Maokai
as well
used
as
to
all
both be
range
like
champions. Yeah, as well as all range champions just had no magic resist per level, meaning that they always had 30 magic resist with, you know, discounting runes and masteries and itemization, of course. Now every champion in the game has some amount of magic resist per level, even if it is smaller. It's 0.5 MR per level, or 0.5 MR scaling technically, as opposed to the 1.25 MR scaling that is on, you know, most melee champions. That makes the flat penetration build significantly worse, because those builds are best when you are, you know, getting your opponent to 0 or close to 0 magic resist. So when those people have an extra 5 to 10 magic resist throughout the game, that makes the flat penetration build a lot worse. So I'm not sure if Neko was aware of that, or maybe just chose to go for the build anyway, thinking that he could snowball. And to some extent, yeah, he's still snowballing, but the lead is a little bit stagnated for Neko here, and he definitely could be extending his lead even more than he has been. So we'll see if this build, continues to be useful or not. But this looks like it's not going to quite be a kill there on Isazaya. The big shield coming out from Karma saving his life.
Yeah, so, I mean, as you were making the point, a demonstration was found for us. This KDR goes down to the combination of the Calling and Acvius, and it looks like we have a fight coming out. Villain coming in with that ultimate, but getting knocked back into his support, nearly killing him. Acvius trying to get the chase onto Sabin there in the back line. Don't jump in, Acvius. You're going to die, buddy. He takes out Sabin, but he goes down himself, and the Cloud Drake looks like it's going down for ESP.
Yeah, even though Acvius did definitely overcommit for that kill, ends up being okay because his team picks up the Dragon. Unfortunately for them, Dragon RNG not on their side. They're getting the Wind Dragon instead of the Earth and Fire on the other side. All the elements coming out here. I definitely, I think I have some respect for the Wind Dragon. I think it's an okay dragon, maybe a little bit underrated. But even so, in these cases of situations where a team is the game is relatively close, the Fire and the Earth Drag just have so much value because the Fire Drag gives you so much teamfight power and the Earth gives you so much turret pressure, so much pressure on that Baron. It makes your Baron so much faster. So it just gives a lot of extra potential for NYT to potentially just rush a Baron, especially in conjunction, those two dragons in conjunction, since the Fire Dragon gives you extra Baron damage a little bit. But the Wind Dragon doesn't give you any of that instantaneous pressure on an objective, for example. It just gives you, we're a little bit faster when we're moving around the map, which is nice. Not to say that it's useless. It's definitely not. But it doesn't give you any, immediate big spikes that you can take advantage of, like a fast Baron potential.
Yeah, and it is 25 magic or move speed out of combat now, so that's pretty significant over the minuscule percentage it used to be. But still not as much as, what is it? 10% AD and AP, or 5, somewhere around there?
8% AD and AP, and then the Mountain Drag is 10% of your 10% true damage to neutral
objectives, I think.
Epic monsters and towers. So it doesn't work on inhibitors or the Nexus. Worth noting, like a lot of people make that mistake. They think they can take that. Yeah, that's another isolated kill here for Acvius. Just like I mentioned, if you can get the isolated damage, this Kha'Zix can just take people out real quick. And it looks like they're thinking about a Baron. Not sure if they're going to commit to it. It is warded, so NYT would know that it started the instant it is started. And it does look like Sabin is going to go around for the flank, maybe go for a steal. It looks like they're saying, we don't even want to fight this with KDR dead, and they're just going to go for a play in the mid lane.
Oh, and Zeta getting picked out, though.
Villain
coming in, gets the Justice Punch on Habibi Poppy, and Habibi Poppy's dead here. Acfi is going down as well to the Unleashed Power.
Can't be going near that Syndra with ultimate up at that health. Acfi is just way too low, going too close to him, and that was actually a really nice force by NYT in the mid lane. Forcing onto the Fizz there, basically, forces them to either peel off the Baron or accept their Fizz is going to die for free, and then if the Fizz dies for free and you don't have Baron already dead, they immediately move in on you, and then it's a 4v4 with the Baron, where the enemy team, NYT would have been down to support, whereas ESP would have been down their mid laner, right? So much more significant, loss there. So I think nice play by NYT to counter that Baron start, since they did see it, but it looks like Sabin's probably going down here.
Oh! Alright, that was unexpected. Baekhyun's the one who went down there. Neko Waifu not going down to Villain either. That was...
Yeah, definitely a misplay there by Baekhyun. Activated the culling and then couldn't deactivate it in time to, as we're seeing a huge Gnar here.
Neko Waifu's going to die here.
Shark does land on the Neko Waifu. So Zeta is going to pick up a double kill here, for sure. Maybe even a triple kill. We'll see.
Best Teemo doing his best, but...
I don't think his best is going to be enough here. He's going to get the triple. Is he going to get the quadra? No. Going to go to Acvius. Not even an assist for Zeta there. So, yeah, nice sequence of plays for ESP. Pressuring, with their Fizz, who, has gotten to a respectable level of itemization, right? This Fizz, even behind, is going to be relevant, right? If he hits that big Shark, that's a lot of damage, right? Even when you see, like, an AD Bruiser Fizz, right? That Shark does a lot of damage if he hits it. This Shark does a lot more damage. This is a mid lane AP Fizz, so... You hit that big Shark on the Neko Waifu, that guy is dead, right? Neko Waifu, that's another instance where if that Leandries was a Zhonya's, probably would have survived that, right? That Zhonya's can avoid all that ult damage. So again, just looking at the itemization choices for NYT, maybe not the way they wanted, right? Like maybe not exactly what they thought or not exactly what they could have gone for, not exactly what they should have gone for. So looks like he's got the Void Staff. He's going for the Death Cap next item. I certainly respect that. That's the highest DPS option you can go for. But I think the Zonia is kind of a necessity, right? Like at this point, the Fizz is so big, Zeta is so large that if he hits you with that Shark, you're dead unless you have Zonia. So I think it's kind of a mistake to not get one.
Yeah, absolutely agreeing with that one. And that last fight was just sloppy all around. The Zonias was actually one of the first things I noticed at the end of it there, because it totally would have saved Neko Waifu a ton of headache, and they might have even been able to turn it. But then the latter half of the fight was just basically a League of Legends firing squad where, you know, ESP was like, next up, next up, and they were just filing in one by one until all of them were dead. It was just...
line him up, knock him down. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Does it look like we're going to see a pick here on
an
Ace
actual
Zaya,
fight this time?
Coming in, that huge damage reduction from Galio, saving Issa Zaya from that unleashed power from Syndra. And we're seeing a nice stun here onto Acvius. It looks like they'll be able to disengage and they'll get the Honey Fruit, and they might be able to start Baron here on the side of NYT. Will they do it, though? They have Acvius chunked out. It would be very difficult for him to go for a steal. I'm not sure they're going to commit for it, though. It doesn't look like it, and it doesn't look like they know that Acvius is fully based, so they're going to just back off and reset here, but I think that may have been a potential advantage for NYT that they could have taken the Baron there. You have to remember they have the Earth Dragon, they have the Fire Dragon. They could have done a very fast Baron, especially with essentially 5 champions that all do damage to Baron. They all have respectable Baron DPS. So their Baron take is very, 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 very quick, and I think they could have easily done it before Acvius was able to make it back to the Baron.
Yeah, absolutely, and it looks like... ESP is trying to position around Dragon, perhaps expecting it to spawn a little sooner, but it's another Cloud Drake for them. So, a little bit on the unfortunate side as far as Drakes go, and it looks like Villain is once again going for the blue Galio build. Not working out quite as well this time, but it is fairly effective at what it does, which is blowing up squishies. So,
yeah, definitely not having as much success, and I think that makes sense. You know, the last game he was laning against a tank that he got...
Oh, he gets the steal!
David gets the steal as Neko Waifu.
No
Zonias.
Zonias. That's the story
Zonias?
of that.
And Zeta's just going to be able to walk away from this one. He's not going to die, and it's another instance of, hey, if that Landry's was a Zonias, you would have lived, and you probably would have gotten the kill on the Zeta. At the very least, you would have Zonias, and then Zeta would have said, all right, I'm not going in on this guy, because he's just going to Zonias my ultimate, right? But with the Leandries, no way to survive that play, right? So, like, until he gets a Zonias, he's just not going to be able to deal with this Fizz Shark, and, you know, it's kind of on Zeta to either miss or hit the Shark, and you know, on a priority target, and if he hits it, that guy's dead, right? And like, unless it's somehow tanked by Sabin, but if Neko Waifu's by himself in mid lane, there's nobody tanking for him, he's going to get hit, and he's going to die.
Yeah. So, a little bit of unfortunate itemization, and at this point, do you just stop building the Death Cap and go for the Zonias, or is it a little too late into the investment into Death Cap?
I think it's probably too late at this point. He doesn't have the slots to build the Zonias. He kind of is committed to the Death Cap at this point. I think maybe when he had the needlessly large rod, but not the blasting wand, he maybe could have switched over to the Zonias, but at this point it's too late. It's also worth noting, by the way, on a sort of unrelated note, this game is dead even now. It's outside of Dragons, 55.1k gold to 55k, and we're seeing 55.1k across the board as well. Baron started and a little bit more gold generated across the board, but very, 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 very close in terms of gold. But again, the Dragon lead is held by NYT just like last game. It seems like they have better objective control. Seems like they have better macro play, but their individual play, their micro maybe leaves a little bit to be desired. And they are making some mistakes in these skirmishes and team fights that are costing them their early gold leads. So we'll have to see if they can pull it back this time, as Big Gun is caught, and I think he's probably dead. Oh, NA's team is not going to commit. He had the mallet hit on him. I think he could have definitely committed for that kill. But another Shark by Zeta, flashed away from by KDR. Yeah, I mean, that was a wise flash by KDR. Definitely would have gone down if that Shark hit him. So good play there. Good respect flash.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the only time for the next 30 seconds where Neko Waifu is safe to be near Zeta, like within the same zip code, because otherwise Zeta will just instantly blow him up with that Shark. But if NYT were to pick and engage, I think
it's worth noting that you look at the way NYT is lined up here. See how Sabin is alternatively walking up in front. but most of the time it's Nekowefu in front. That's why Nekowefu keeps getting hit by these sharks over and over and over again. He's staying up front to go for harass because he feels that he needs, he's thinking to himself probably, I am the fed one on my team. I am the carry. I need to do damage. As we're seeing a Baron commit here, I'm not sure if it's warded. I think they don't know this is happening on the side of NYT. They have no idea this Baron's going down. Yeah, this is a Baron sneak, and they're probably going to get it. But Nekowefu is just playing so far up that he just has to get hit by these sharks every time. And I think he needs to understand this. Saban definitely knows this is going down. He's probably going to go for a steal here.
And is he going to get it? He gets it again! Another stolen objective by Saban. And Nekowefu, buddy, you really got to dodge those sharks. Zeta taking him out, but going down himself. NABES Teemo fighting Bekyan and Villain here in the backline. Gets the Mega Gnar. He gets the slam into the wall. Cullen going down, but it's not going to be enough to take anyone out. Habibi Poppy going to try and take out Isazaya here in the backline of the fight, but Isazaya barely surviving. 3 members incredibly low. It looks like NYT is going to try and push up the mid lane with that newly acquired Baron buff, while NABES Teemo goes back top.
I didn't see how it happened, but Habibi Poppy somehow took out Akvius while the Baron was still alive, meaning that there was a free smite for Saban. There was no enemy jungler to contest it, so Saban just easily gets the smite down. This is a huge win for NYT. They can now pressure these inhibitors. This inhibitor tower is probably going down here. Villain and Isazaya are not going to be able to defend this. They're going to get this inhib most likely.
Akvius is coming
up though, and he's going to threaten.
Oh, flashing in. Habibi Poppy's dead. And KDR is sure to follow, and then Saban's going to have to escape here. That was perhaps an overstay?
I think they tried to just get damage on the inhib, and as a bit of an overstay, they should have just gone for the tower and immediately backed off, and they could have come back with 5 Baron buffs. Now they're gonna have to wait for Habibi Poppy and KDR to respawn. They're gonna have to try and regroup with their Barons. It's fine that they lost 2. It's not really a big deal to have it on your AD carry or your support. More important to have it on this Gnar, have it on this Syndra and this Lee Sin. So those are the more important Baron buffs. But obviously a bit of an overstay, and that will give not only a bit of gold back, but a little bit of time back to ESP. That buys ESP, that extra about a minute or so before they're going to be, looking at people hitting their inhibitors. So they're able to clean up these side waves. Zeta, you can see, just pushed out bottom. He's recalling now. You can see Villain in the top lane right now. This is what happens because KDR and Habibi Poppy did go down. They're able to control their side waves. Now they have side wave pushing in the other direction. So it just means that they timed out most of the Baron buff, and it's most likely that NYT is only going to get one more push out of this Baron buff. And if they don't succeed on the next push and getting an inhibitor, then it's going to be a lot harder for them to break the base. Even though they have sort of already in some sense broken the base by getting an inhibitor turret, they never actually got that inhibitor down.
Yeah, Bekyan using flash and calling in that engage there for, I think, nothing for the other side. Nekowefu getting engaged on by Bekyan, and he's going to go down. Zeta coming in onto the backline, going to chase on NABES Teemo, possibly turning on Habibi Poppy. Doesn't get the chance to. Habibi Poppy taking him out instead. So it's a 1-for-1 mid laner for mid laner trade.
It was a nice flank by Zeta, but then he just overcommitted a little bit too hard, tried to go for the second kill onto NABES Teemo, and ends up getting stunned and just killed while stunned. Not sure if he even had Playful Trickster up, but if he did, probably could have escaped had he not gotten hit by that wallop from Mega Gnar. So, yeah, it's worth noting, of course, that had he not committed for that, as we're seeing Saban maybe going to go for a kickback here.
He misses it. Kicking him backwards, and that's a terrible mistake for his team. Akvius getting taken out there in the backline sort of evens it out. NABES Teemo getting the transform. Might be able to get the Gnar onto 3, but
no, Gnar not quite up yet. The cooldown still a little bit, another couple of seconds. He has it up now, but doesn't have flash, so it would be really difficult for him to get in on anybody. Had that Mega Gnar cooldown, had that Gnar ultimate cooldown been a little bit sooner, 5 seconds shorter, maybe could have gotten a teamfight win there. But now the Baron buff is timed out, and there is a small gold lead for NYT, a dragon lead, and I think they're going to go for pressuring this Elder Dragon next. They have the gold lead, they have the dragon lead, and they finally completed this big spike, this death cap onto Nekowefu. He's going to be doing an insane amount of damage. Another respect flash from KDR. I like it. I think, again, you get hit by that, you're dead. I like the respect flash.
The reverse Hakuho or Kiwi Kid, depending on which former LCS support you want to pick on, where they just go off and die.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, you could maybe say in that situation, hey, KDR, why don't you just pop your locket as the shark's about to hit you? You hit your locket redemption Zyra. So this is not the full damage Zyra where you expect them to be super squishy. So to some degree, maybe at this point you can stop respect flashing. But I certainly understand, you're not a super high damage Zyra, so your flash also has less value in the sense that you're not going to be flashing forwards and then one-shotting somebody, right? So
right.
You just say, okay, maybe I don't need to flash, maybe I do, but I'm just going to flash out just to make sure there's no way you can kill me. Your Shark is on cooldown. I don't die. Our team doesn't potentially lose Elder Dragon because, one person going down there maybe means that the Elder Dragon goes the way of ESP. That's a possibility. So, I get the respect flash there, even though it's maybe not the most necessary thing ever.
Yeah, I would much rather see that than him just not respect flashing, thinking it's going to miss, it hitting, and then him dying immediately, because that seems pretty likely if it does land.
Something that I do like here, by the way, another thing I like, Guardian Angel by Habibi Poppy. This not only extends his damage, since it does give 40 AD now, but it also means as any of his team is going to run into Zeta, I don't think Zeta wants this fight. This is not the fight he wants.
This is, I think, the only person he can't fight.
Yeah, he's definitely losing this one going pretty badly.
Acvi is coming in, but getting stunned and knocked into the wall. NABS Teemo having to jump out, but that's another Shark blown. Chain of Corruption going down onto Zeta. So that's Zeta for NABS Teemo. I think that's a win for NYT.
Yeah, I think, again, like I was just saying, the GA good pickup for Habibi Poppy. I think the unsung hero of a lot of these fights for NYT is Habibi Poppy. He's getting these Chain of Corruptions down onto key targets. He's doing his DPS in the backline quietly with this double Zeal item build, and he's just never getting hit by the Sharks. He's difficult to kill. He's remaining in the backline. As we see, that's a little bit of damage on the bacon from one
just
W from Syndra. But Habibi Poppy doing a lot of damage in the fights from the backline very safely and hitting these Chains of Corruption onto key targets, and has salvaged a lot of these fights where one of his team members gets caught and he's able to somehow, with the Chain of Corruption, turn a kill back thanks to that hard CC, just instant hard CC coming out. As it looks like we're just going to see some, not exactly ARAM, but sort of everyone around the Elder Dragon, kind of like ARAM if ARAM was around an Elder Dragon instead of in the mid lane.
Yeah, there you go. We'll find a pithier way to do it as this goes on. Hopefully it doesn't go on long enough.
Some different acronyms. We're seeing a TP in from NABS Teemo. I don't know if he really wants this.
He gets taunted. Chain of Corruption going down onto Acvius, though. So that's a win for sure. Acvius looks like he's going to get taken out as Villain ults in. Acvius barely surviving. Habibi Poppy going in for the flash. Getting taunted, but Villain's going to die here. Shark going down onto Sabin. That is not the target Zeta wanted to hit. And it looks like NYT wins the fight and possibly going to turn on to Elder here.
I don't know. There's no fight, and Elder Dragon, unlike Baron, is relatively easy to tank, relatively easy to do. It's not nearly as much of a risk to do it against a no jungler team. They're going to get this for free. And at this point, they have this Dragon buff for 2.5 minutes. They're going to win every fight. Even if they play it pretty badly, they have to play it really badly to lose, with this massive 3-dragon Elder. At 3 dragons, the Elder starts to get pretty outrageous, the amount of damage it does, especially for champions like this Gnar that are built to do sustained damage, but maybe don't have the like highest, actual damage output. Now he's going to have insane damage, right? No one's going to be able to match him in a side lane, and I'd honestly like to see him just go to a side lane and start threatening another inhib turret or the inner turret that's still alive in bottom lane, while his team tries to siege the mid inhibitor that's still open from that Baron buff earlier, where they did break the base of ESP.
Yeah, absolutely. So the game is, I think, slowly swinging into NYT's favor again after that rough early game and the sort of mid game. I wouldn't say direct throw, but perhaps floundering about with the intention to lose the ball.
Yeah, I mean, they had a huge early game lead. They definitely floundered around a bit. As we're seeing a missed Shark, that's huge. That Shark, yes, it's a low cooldown, but that gives a really big window of opportunity for NYT to press up and take this inhibitor. The main threat of going up to take that inhibitor, it looks like they're going to go for the Baron instead. That also makes sense since the Baron has just spawned. Again, the big threats, if you go for this Baron or you go for the inhibitor, is you put yourself in an enclosed space where it's easy to hit that Shark. That Shark is not up, and the Baron is not going to go to Acvius. He is dead. Oh,
Acvius getting caught in the pit there. They could turn this into a push. NABS Teemo transforms. Unfortunate timing for him, actually, because you lose so much move speed. Cloud Drake not going to be enough for that.
Yeah, even the empowered Cloud Drake from the Elder not going to be enough, but that's for sure the inhib going over. They may even try and press for the game, just like last game where I think, maybe not the best decision to go for the Nexus turrets. It may end up working out if they can win a fight at the same time they're taking the Nexus turrets. It looks like they're definitely thinking about going for these Nexus turrets. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it, but if you think you can win the fight...
The Shark is whiffed.
The Shark is down, and that's a stun hit.
Baekhyun getting the stun. The flash kick from Sabin. The hero play coming out from the jungler for NYT. This might be able to turn into a game-ending play here for NYT. And it looks like Villain and Isazaya going down, getting a triple for Neko Waifu just out of nowhere. And that's going to be game.
Yeah, and just like I said, exactly like I drew it up. You get this Baron, and you go for these Nexus turrets, and if they defend, if they try and force over the defense, they try and defend them too hard, you just kill them all, and then you end the game, right? You have this Dragon buff, you have this Baron buff, you are so far ahead at this point, in terms of your, actual combat stats, it's very difficult to fight. They were supposed to just try and clear waves as best they could under the turrets, and maybe they survive until Acvius comes up. Instead, Baekhyun gets hit by a stun, instantly dead. That Syndra stun hits him from miles downtown. Nice play by Neko Waifu. Overall, Neko Waifu making some really nice plays in this game, getting it really far ahead early on, even though he did have a lot of mistakes in the mid game where he got sharked over and over and over again with no Zhonya's. Maybe the itemization choices could have been a little better, but overall, really nice play from Neko Waifu to pull this out. Habibi Poppy just being that reliable DPS in the back line, helping NYT take the victory. So we'll have to see back for game 3 and see who's able to take the series.
Yep, absolutely. We'll be going on a little music/slideshow break, so enjoy that. Get up, get some more popcorn, because this is promising to be a great Game 3. We'll see you then. All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Game 3 of the finals between Team X Semi-Pro and the New York Timberlands. I am still Naviria, and I'm still joined, hopefully, by N-Step. Can you confirm, N-Step?
I can confirm, and we are seeing a immediate back out to
Awesome!
lobby.
Fantastic.
So we'll have to see what exactly that is for.
All right, apparently someone was missing. Everyone said ready, then they weren't. It was, Whew! All right. Well, we'll be going back to music then, apparently. Everyone enjoy more League-themed music. Maybe I'll start some MS Paint drawings in the meantime. But, oh no, I can here. Hold on. Enjoy this MS Paint drawing while we wait. All right, hello everybody, and welcome back for real to Game 3 of the finals between Team X Semi-Pro and the New York Timberlands. I don't need to confirm the confirmation of N-Step being here, but I'm gonna anyways. N-Step, can you confirm the confirmation?
I confirm the confirmation.
All right, excellent. Everyone is here. Let's hope no one misses a ban or something, because
This
any
Vlad
more
ban,
waiting.
they are really sticking to this over and over again against Neko Waifu. I'm assuming they just do not want to see this Vlad. Maybe Zeta just doesn't have a good idea for a counter pick. Again, the Alawi ban, same across all the games in this series against Villain, making sure that's not staying out. This time they are changing it up. They're saying, Sabin, we cannot have you on this Lee Sin, and that is very understandable. Sabin has been a monster on this Lee Sin. Both games, Game 1 and Game 2, an absolute beast on this champion, so I definitely get banning that out.
Yeah, absolutely, and not even necessarily due to a bunch of flashy plays either. We've seen him get a few good kicks off, but it's mostly just due to his incredible pressure that he puts out on the champion, rather than any of those weird like the one that was on Reddit recently where you like ward jump before following the second half of the Q and then queue up your R and then flash or some fancy like that. No, it's just good solid mechanics and a knowledge of how to exert pressure that the champion provides, and I think that's the concern I have for ESP is that is a transferable skill more than the Lee Sin mechanics are. So I think Saban will hopefully have another pick that he can exert similar pressure on, and it looks like he's picking the Kazakhs this time.
Hey, at least he's thinking about it. It's worth noting this Ash. This was picked in game 1 for ESP, and then they banned it on red side in game 2. And now they've picked it first pick again for game 3. This is something that I felt Bacon was a bit more successful on than the Lucian that he had in game 2. So maybe this is something that they can use to turn back the tides, get that advantage back and make the victory happen. But at the same time, this time the karma is going to be in KDR's hands this time instead of for Isazaya. I kind of expect Isazaya to pick up the Nami, which is good in lane against the karma. Just generally a very good laning champion. Ashe Nami, pretty strong combo. A Rumble here locked in for villain, and just like I said, the Nami locked in for Isazaya. We'll have to see what AD carry Habibi Poppy does choose to go with, and see if it's something that can effectively lane into the Ashe Nami. So. The Rumble, though, is interesting blind pick. I'm kind of surprised to see this. The Rumble, yes, it's a tank counter, but it has been massively nerfed on this patch. So just like what I was talking about earlier with the Syndra and the flat magic penetration, the way that build has been nerfed because all champions now in the game have some amount of magic resist per level. It's the same thing with Rumble, except Rumble is not a champion that has the option to go magic resist per level. He has to go flat magic pen to enable himself to do damage, right? Because his AP ratios on the whole are complete garbage, and his base damages are extremely high. So that magic pen is the only way to do damage. But now Rumble, his laning phase is still mostly the same, but he falls off much, much, much more quickly. His mid game spike is not as big, and his late game is even worse than it was before. So it's a situation where if you pick Rumble, you're putting yourself on a timer where you're gonna get to a point where this Rumble is doing very insignificant damage to the tanks of the enemy team, and even to the squishies, he's not going to do nearly as much damage as he did before. So I think the Rumble pick is risky, especially blind, because it's mostly a laning pick now, where you pick it to counter a specific lane matchup. So the Echo here picked for Isazaya, that may be another filler pick for potentially the Fizz, I suspect. Or alternatively, is it a Rumble in the jungle? And is it a Shen top lane for villain? That is an option. So we'll have to see how that works out. Rumble in the jungle is something that has been seen a couple of times here and there. And it is something that's, it's good into some matchups. Not a big fan of it into the Kazakhs particularly, but, the jungle matchup isn't really particularly relevant. The Shen here for villain is nice, but, especially if that is the Fizz in the mid lane for Zeta. But the Shen, you normally want to have like 2 to 3 champions on your team that make good use of the Shen shield, whereas really it's just going to be the mid laner here for ESP. That the Shen's going to be able to get that ultimate, go in with the dive buddy, have the shark on him, just level 6, your Fizz hits the shark, the Shen comes in with the Stand United, and you just instantly kill the enemy mid laner with 2-man from basically from nowhere, right? You just hit the shark from Fog of War, and the Shen can be anywhere on the map. So that can be pretty powerful. We're seeing the Gnar hover here for NA Best Teemo. It's a good matchup into the Shen, and it's not that unexpected.
Yeah, okay, I have a question about the Shen matchup, though, because he has auto-blocking on his W. Is that just not a factor because Gnar is ranged and he can check out autos whenever? It's not like a limited engage field?
It is a factor, and fact is, right now, Shen beats Gnar early on in the lane, mostly because of that W and also the changes that were made to Shen in 7.8, whereas Q does more damage to champions. But as the game goes further and further, eventually Shen will stop having the damage to significantly hurt Gnar in these short trades. And then what ends up happening is, the Gnar builds up things like the Black Cleaver, things like the Frozen Mallet. The Shen, at some point, he's just going to get kited extremely hard by the Gnar, where the Shen can no longer get auto attacks in against the Gnar, while the Gnar can get auto attacks against the Shen. He's going to continuously auto attack him down the lane, especially in these long lanes when towers are taken. And the Gnar will be able to run him down with the Mallet and beat him down. And that's sort of how the lane matchup goes. But you have to understand, early on, Villain does have an advantage in this lane matchup where he can potentially taunt in and get a good trade backing out with the W, the Spirit's Refuge, that auto blocking zone, to avoid the counter play by NA Best Teemo. So a lot of this is going to be on NA Best Teemo and how well he's able to play the early laning phase and not fall behind the Shen from Villain. And make sure that he doesn't like die to a rumble gank or something like that, so that he can scale up and become that split pushing monster that can deal with the Shen in the side lane. It does look like, by the way, this is in fact the Echo for Zeta, by the way. So yes, Shen Echo is still a great combo. Maybe not quite as great as Shen Fizz, but it is still a really good combo you can use to go directly into the enemy team and just sort of dive buddy it up. The Shen is a big tank that can stay in the fight, and then the Echo can always just use that ultimate to back himself out of the fight, and then you have the Shen. Hopefully then you pick off somebody. You get 1 pick or 2 picks, something like that. The Shen still stays behind. The Echo uses ultimate to get out, and you have a really nice combo working there. So overall, in terms of composition, neither comp seems particularly dedicated towards one thing. They're both a little bit flexible. They both have a split pusher, at least. In the case of ESP, they have 2. Echo can potentially split push, although since he doesn't have teleport, will be a little bit more limited in that respect. And there is a really nice siege situation going on here, though, from NYT. They do have the potential Kha'Zix W's coming out, the Syndra stuns, the Caitlyn traps, the Karma shields. Lots of really, really, really good 4-man unit here if they do want to send this Gnar to the split push. So I like the composition from NYT, maybe a bit more than the one from ESP.
Yeah, and I have a question less on composition because you covered that very well, but more on summoner spell usage. The exhaust on Zeta's Echo seems a little strange to me, considering Chrono Break is a thing. Is it just assuming you're gonna die before the Syndra ult even comes out, or?
The exhaust, to me, says that Zeta does not have a lot of confidence in himself in this matchup, because the teleport is the normal summoner choice for Echo, and what you do is you outpush the Syndra in the early game. You just use that time winder. You continuously just shove out the lane, shove the lane, and then when you run out of mana, which is normally the big disadvantage of doing that on Echo, you base, you TP, you get yourself an item advantage, and then you force the Syndra to either base so that you have the XP advantage, or you just have a big item lead that you can abuse her with. So he's not going to be able to do that, and that's a lot of what makes the matchup so good for Echo, is that ability to just take TP and make use of it throughout the game. With Exhaust, you're basically saying, okay, like I'm gonna play a little bit more passively in this lane. Maybe I'm not gonna shove as hard in the early game, and I'm gonna accept that maybe you hit level 6 first. Maybe I need to exhaust you on that. Like when you hit that level 6, I get hit by that unleashed power when I don't have access to the Chrono Break to return to avoid that damage, right? Mm-hmm. So I think in general the teleport is just superior in every way to the exhaust, but in the late game teamfight scenario where someone else is getting hit, or if you don't have Chrono Break, yes, the exhaust can be better in an actual combat scenario because it's a combat summoner, whereas teleport is not. But I think teleport in general is better because it does allow you to get that early, item lead with that extra like Dark Seal or Doran's Ring or something like that. Get your mana back and then not lose the XP advantage that you can maintain. So I really like the teleport on Echo, and I think it's a little bit of a shame here that Zeta's not going for it. So I think that's something that maybe we'll track over the course of the game, like how good would teleport have been versus how good is the exhaust. So we'll have to see how well he's able to make use of that exhaust throughout the game.
All right, well, we'll see that in about a minute here. So we'll be going to a quick break, and then we'll be back into the game for Game 3 of the finals. Hope to see you then. Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to a paused Game 3. So hopefully this doesn't last, but it gives us time to continue our little analysis of the team talk. And before that, though, we get some hype. It's Game 3 in the finals of the NA show match for the April 2017 season here at Learning Fives. We got a great matchup here between Team X Semi-Pro on the blue side and Team New York Timberlands, sorry, not team in front of that, on the red. So I'm pretty hyped for the game. And Steb, how about you?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see these games. I love it when we see a close series instead of a stomp one way or the other. I know, I've casted, in the past many stomps. It's not that interesting. There's still stuff you can talk about, but it just feels like, a lot of the analysis goes to waste. It's not that exciting when you see one team just completely stomping the other. I love to see, teams splitting games, both teams having a good competition here. And it feels like, regardless of the comps, regardless of the situation, these teams have very distinct strengths and very distinct weaknesses. It feels like to me, NYT has the superior macro game. They have the superior just overarching game knowledge or understanding. But on the other side, ESP has the superior micro play. They have the superior maybe team play. These team fights have usually gone really well for them. And these skirmishes have gone really well for them. And oftentimes they're winning their lane solo. But Sabin has just been such a critical part of NYT's success. He's getting his team ahead early, and then they use that early lead to take down turrets. And then, in game 2, they were able to use that early lead to push, and eventually, even though they dipped in the mid game, push the win, right? And that was really awesome, right? Habibi had that consistent DPS, and it just seemed like they were firing on all cylinders, right? Whereas ESP felt like they just sort of fell too far behind in the early game despite their really strong mid-game comp to come back. And this is the first game, by the way, it's worth noting, we're not seeing a level 1 invade at all. This is, everything's on the line for this one. This is the high stakes games here, game 3 of the best of 3. And nobody wants to risk anything on the level 1, or maybe they just feel that they don't have a good enough level 1 to make it worth invading, despite both teams having some CC available at level 1, some slows from NYT, and even some potential hard CC from the Shen taunt over on the side of ESP.
Yeah, and speaking of Shen, my favorite thing ever has happened in the item builds. If you'll look to Villain's items, you'll see the triple Rejuve bead start, popularized by, I think ADD was the first one to do it in Korea, or I think he wants his name pronounced Ed, but I'm going to call him ADD. And I just love this build because when you first see it, you're like, what the hell are you doing? But then when you look into it, it actually starts making more sense. Now, how I understand it is Shen has crazy base health regen, and you can build those Rejuve beads into items that really help Shen. But I don't know if that still is true with the itemization changes introduced in this patch. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Before we get into that, we're being told by Twitch chat you need to change the scene, Iberia. So apparently the viewers cannot see the game, but once that's fixed, yeah. So while you're working on that, I'll talk about the Shen. So yes, Shen has extremely high base health regen, and since the Rejuve beads are based upon the regeneration of the the base regeneration of the champion that they're sort of equipped to, I guess is the proper term there, or being used on. They scale really, really, really well on Shen, and since you can eventually build at least one item, you can make use of one of them, and then the others have, not terrible sellback value, so they're not bad value by themselves, and they just allow you to deal with these really hard matchups. Another matchup where you likely see this is Rumble, another matchup where you just get harassed a lot in the early game. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it in this particular matchup because if you do go the Doran shield, which gives you that extra health and health regen, you can actually fight the Gnar. So when I was saying early on in that, Shen does win this matchup early on, it's not really the case if you go the triple Rejuve beat start, because without that extra health, it's hard to win those all-ins. The health does scale the damage on your taunt, so that's where some extra damage comes from, some extra sustain comes from that Doran shield, especially since Doran shield has also been buffed on this patch. So I don't know. I feel like this may be a bit of a mistake, and maybe something that Villain is showing maybe he doesn't have the most experience in this matchup, since this is a matchup where you normally would have gone Doran Shield before and after.
Speaking of mistakes,
seriously aggressed on. That's his flash and a lot of his health. And this is another instance where that teleport would have been really good here, right? So this is another instance where the exhaust he's going to get punished pretty hard for having this exhaust over the TP.
Yeah, a little bit of a trade going down in the bot lane meanwhile as well. It looks like NYT is not going to come out on top in that, despite what was initially a pretty good trade, a good bubble from Isazaya, sort of preventing KDR from going more aggressive with that. So
yeah, look at the CS though here. BB Poppy has a big CS lead, and it is worth noting, of course, Baekhyun does have a lot of CS under the turret, but
what?
the taunt flash misses from Villain.
But just
Ugh,
barely. But that's super
just
unfortunate.
really unfortunate there, and NA Best Teemo is going to be able to jump out, and this is another big mistake you see a lot of, especially newer Shen players make, or less experienced Shen players make. In that instance, when you need the maximum distance on the taunt, you should be flash taunting, not taunt flashing. Taunt flashing is only useful in cases where you don't need the maximum range on your taunt. In that case, he either needed to taunt flash directly on top of NA Best Teemo, which he may have been in range. I'm not 100% sold on that, but the taunt flash has less range than the flash taunt. So it's interesting, it's a nice mechanic, as we're seeing Sabin go for another ganker in the bottom lane, another flash
burn by
blown.
Issa.
Yeah, Sabin not getting the kills this game though, was able to pick up a lot of early kills on that Lee Sin, in the other games. Has yet to pick up one of those. First blood has yet to be seen, but still has been fairly successful, even though he hasn't been quite as successful as he has been in other games.
Yeah, I think it's part of the champion as well. While Lee Sin has just so many ways to get onto targets just brilliantly. He can safeguard in, he can follow in his Sonic Wave, he can flash if he has to. Kha'Zix really only has flash and leap, and leap, at least at early levels and without the evolution, is kind of hard to use properly for these ganks. So
it is, of course, worth noting, Kha'Zix does have his advantages, right? Kha'Zix does scale a bit better. Lee Sin is generally considered to be a bit of a better pick for the jungle right now. Just Kha'Zix has been, he's hit with a couple of nerfs, and then some indirect nerfs have hit him over the last few patches. So I think, Kha'Zix, he's a fine champion, and there's nothing wrong with him. Lee Sin is definitely of a higher tier, and so you kind of have to expect a little bit less from Sabin in these games than you did in the other games, just because not only was his priority champion banned away, but it's also just a higher tier of champion banned away from him. So hopefully we'll see Sabin pick some stuff up and be a force in the game. But you can see Nekawave was level 6. He's taking a pretty bad trade here from Zeta, though. That was
hit up by the Z-Drive Resonance.
Yeah, the Z-Drive Resonance doing quite a bit of damage there, as well as the Time Winder, and the Phase Dive doing quite a substantial
amount of damage. Having to flash. But Sabin's coming in, not quite isolated yet. Zeta using the Chrono Break, and Stand United coming out from Villain. It looks like the teleport's coming in from NA Best Teemo. This is turning into a full-fledged team fight. First blood going down on favor of Neko Waifu. And the TP is canceled by NA Best Teemo, which is the correct decision there, because there's no need to still be there after the kill goes down.
Yeah, I think a good start of the channel of the TP from the Gnar, because you have to, you can't assume that your Syndra is going to make a big play and get the kill before you TP in. Then a good cancel for sure. Just cancel, finish shoving in the wave. Make sure that Shen, is forced to blow his own TP or fall significantly behind in experience. And you can see even now the Shen is level 6, the Gnar is level 7, right? Not only that CS lead, about 10 CS at this point, but the Gnar is significantly ahead in experience now. He's about half a level lead, I believe, at the moment. And you have to figure, now the Gnar, this is exactly what the Gnar wants, right? The Gnar wants the Shen to TP away from him and get nothing out of it. That is perfect. Now the Shen has no ultimate, he has no teleport, and the Gnar can just sit in that lane and 1v1 him. That is perfect for NA Best Teemo now. This is exactly what he wants, and he just gets to go back, buy that Jarm's Fist, and now he's going to try and look to bully out Villain a little bit harder. Now that he's hit that spike, that that level 7 point is where this matchup really starts to turn in favor of the Gnar. The really big point is when he starts getting his first and second item completions. But even now he'll be able to bully Villain pretty hard. So nice there. But it is worth noting, all this early pressure from Sabin has come at a great cost. Look at the CS difference between Akvius and Sabin. Sabin is, even though yes, a lot of that is due to things like Krugs and Krugs and Raptors, and Sabin going for a gank in the top lane. I don't think he's getting Villain though. Villain's pretty tanky.
Doing a little bit of considerable damage though, despite it.
Yeah, Sabin, he's a little bit behind in terms of actual jungle farm of Akvius. Even though the experience isn't that much of a difference, it's because he leached experience from his own bottom lane. In terms of gold, Akvius, even despite the assist, Akvius is actually about 200 gold ahead, or 250 gold ahead of Sabin right now, which is due to that farm disadvantage. And KDR is getting Might need to flash, but maybe not.
Assassin Rumble coming in. Blue buff helping out. KDR Equalizer going down to try and catch Katie Arg, but not going to do a whole lot.
Yeah, that's nice. The Equalizer burned in return for 2 summoners. The heal and the exhaust from the bottom lane here of NYT. I like it for sure. Just the nice play there. I'm not really sure why KDR was recalling in that weird spot, but ends up going pretty well for Acvius. Just gets some free pressure, and he's able to maintain his efficient pathing and keep farming it up. He's got his entire topside jungle to take, so he's going straight there. As we're seeing Sabin just stay here top lane, and I don't think this is a good plan, right? This is a lane that NA Best Teemo is going to win by himself, and it's just very unlikely that you're able to kill Villain at this point when he already has the Bomby Cinder. He's pretty tanky. It's just going to be very difficult to actually get this kill, especially when the wave is pushed like this. So I think Sabin's better off going to do something else, maybe like getting a ward, in the enemy jungle. I like that. And getting Scuttle Crab, I like that too. So there's good enough vision here for topside, topside for NYT. Maybe he goes for a blue buff steal, or maybe he goes for pressure onto Acvius when he does go for this blue buff.
Yeah, and while I think the movements in the past few seconds have been good as an adaptation to how poorly the top lane's going, as Parallel Convergence comes out and gets the stun onto Sabin as Acvius comes in, Sabin jumping out with a leap, Stand United coming out from Villain for some reason.
That Stand United needed to come out earlier if it was going to come out. The thing was, because of the control ward, they didn't have the vision to know whether Sabin was still in that bush or not until the Parallel Convergence actually came down. It doesn't grant vision, all the time. It just only grants vision after it's hit. As a BB might be caught out here, and he doesn't have any
Poppy is eating some damage. Baekhyun flashing in. KDR flashing in himself, but Baekhyun's going to get the kill. And KDR might be following here, trying to get the snare onto the 80 carry Ashe. But KDR's going to fall as well. A double kill for Baekhyun, and that just does not bode well for NYT.
Yeah, big mistakes there from the bottom lane of NYT. They overpush, in the first part, and then also some small micro mistakes, definitely mismanaged there. In particular, KDR flashed towards Habibi Poppy to get the shield, and then shielded himself. Had he gotten that shield on Habibi Poppy, they maybe could have turned that 1v1, or at the very least, they would have traded back a kill. Even if necessarily, they wouldn't necessarily have won. They definitely would have at least traded back the kill onto Baekhyun. So it's just small micro mistakes costing them a lot. In addition to they probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, right? They split up, not in the right spot. As we're seeing Villain and NA Best Teemo going at it. Until you can see the completion of the Frozen Mallet, you're probably not going to see too much exciting stuff happening in this lane. It's just going to be NA Best Teemo slowly whittling down the Shen, and the Shen just kind of doing his thing. But once you see that Frozen Mallet come out, the Frozen Mallet will allow NA Best Teemo to bully this a lot harder. But regardless, Acvius getting his Krugs here, staying up in jungle farm. Sabin falling very far behind now. He's now down a level, and yeah, this is the disadvantage of going for all those early plays and not getting paid off like he was in the first 2 games. So at this point, you can see a 600 gold lead for ESP. Not a huge gold lead, but it is something, right? And the only, it's worth noting, of course, it's a small sample size, only 2 games, but the only game that NYT was able to win, they had a very, 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 very large gold lead early on, like a huge gold lead. To the point of, absurdity, to the point of where I was thinking, there's almost no way they lost. And we're seeing another gank at the mid lane.
Oh, good chrono break to dodge the W. Neko Waifu might go down. The Z-Drive Resonance doing a lot, and the great use of the Time Winder there from Zeta. Flashing past so that it recalled through Neko there.
Gotta give credit where credit's due. That was a good use of the exhaust to get that slow down on a Neko Waifu to make sure that Zeta could catch up. So that was an instance where, I was pointing out earlier, an instance where the TP would have been vastly superior to the exhaust. There, the exhaust was actually very useful for Zeta and did enable him to get that kill. I'm not convinced that he would have gotten it without the exhaust. Maybe wouldn't have been able to catch up to Neko Waifu, who had Ghost running with that extra speed up. Without the power of that exhaust to slow him down. So, nice there. But, it's a nice gank turn for sure. But that was both TPs blown. And you got to remember, every time both TPs are blown, that's an advantage for Shen. But when the Stand United is down and both TPs are down, that's a huge advantage for Gnar. And the taunt missing and just getting Gnar'd into the wall, as Sabin's also coming up top lane. So, again, not really sure that's the place to be for Sabin.
Especially not after Gnar was just blown. Oh, Tidal Wave coming out, landing onto KDR, but missing Habibi Poppy. KDR trying to get the snare down, gets exhaust onto Baekhyun, but Baekhyun is about to kill KDR. Not quite getting the kill. Habibi Poppy going to go down, though. And it looks like in the top lane there was a gank gone wrong. Well, not wrong enough for it to matter, but...
Yeah.
Oh,
Looks
parallel
like that is
convergence in the mid lane?
not
maybe?
quite getting at the parallel convergence stun there on the Nekuefu. Maybe could have gotten it if he pressed up a little bit harder, but didn't go for it. And yeah, Habibi Papi and KDR are just losing this bottom lane extremely hard. Like I said in Champ Select, as we're seeing it's typical interaction between a Syndra and a Echo of ult for ult trade, and then
Ooh, and
Nekuefu
Neko
loses the
dies
rest.
for it, but Zeta
Yeah.
eating some tower
Interesting
steps.
Sunfire Cape animation there on the Shen. Seems to be a little bit off to the side. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, but
I am, and it's irritating me.
that's interesting.
It's like...
That's interesting. But yeah, I mean, this game is looking very rough for NYT. They're losing their lanes, and yes, this Gnar is winning, and yes, this Gnar will continue to win, and it'll continue to win harder and harder and harder as the game goes on. But I'm just not convinced that that's enough. This Echo is now winning the mid lane pretty convincingly, with these solo kills. And bottom lane is losing pretty hard. Even though they do have the CS lead here for Habibi Papi, this is a 3-kill Ashe, and the Ashe spikes a lot earlier. And oh my god, this guy's got his red buff next to him, and he's got swords next to him, or like arm blades or something. I don't even know what's going on anymore. But it looks like he's going to go solo this dragon, which is not warded. So that is the nice advantage that Sabin can grab here for his team, unless it's checked by Isazaya. And it looks like it will probably be the
Chinniger's arrow going wide because the bubble landed. That's so unfortunate. But Isazaya going to die, missing the flash as well.
Stand United was blown there as well. That is
jeez.
Cooldown. Especially, it's always heartbreaking when you're playing this Shen and you're level 10 and you blow your ultimate and nothing comes from it, because now not only is he thinking like, wow, that cooldown is blown over. Say Black probably didn't want to be that far up without his support, but that Shen ultimate, it's blown. It's not even a level 11 cooldown. It's a 200-second cooldown before CDR if he has any. I don't think he does. But Nekuefu just getting blasted in the mid lane. KDR getting blasted down here. The flash coming out, and
Habibi Papi
maybe not in the best spot. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be a kill, but Bacon's probably dead.
I don't know about that either. Best Teemo might be dead, though. Apparently, we're both wrong.
Flashed out. This Rumble doing a lot of damage right now. That early Runic Echoes does have a huge damage spike when you finish it. So, especially for a champion like Rumble that has such good base damages, you can combine that. You sort of add that base. Yeah, that's sort of what you expect. Once the Echo gets the lead in this matchup, it's real hard for Syndra to do much. That's why this is considered to be part of why this is considered to be a counter matchup. It's not just about the early push and shove and the TP, but also because you can just go in on the Syndra and kill her whenever you want. And now, instead of Sabin grabbing that dragon solo, which is what I thought was going to happen earlier, instead the dragon is going to go over to ESP, and ESP is in a very commanding spot in this game. They are looking really, really, really strong in this one, and this is looking even better than Game 1, which they also won, where they have a much larger early lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is surprising to me because, I mean, we weren't really expecting the Rumble in the jungle at all. At least I wasn't, and we didn't really talk about it, but
Rumble
it's surprisingly strong.
Yeah, I mean, the Rumble has been pretty effective for Acvius. Not to say that he's really done anything particularly, impressive, but in some ways, it's more impressive that, he's 0-0-0 and he's been so effective for his team. Mm-hmm. He's just been around the map. He's farmed very efficiently. He's blown a lot of summoners. Ooh. As we're seeing Zeta get
having a chrono break out
there. Yeah,
oh, but Nekuefu missed the stun.
I think Nekuefu was probably going to pick this up, but maybe not.
Zeta with the fancy feet.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening across the map. As you can see, NA Best Teemo using that Frozen Mallet, just missing that last hyper proc there, but just getting pretty good damage. As Acvius is here, does have the equalizer, but only level 10. Without that level 11 second rank equalizer, not really that big of a threat to the Gnar, I don't think. That extra damage coming out will probably help quite a bit when he does reach that point. It is warded though, so NA Best Teemo does have some knowledge that the Rumble was there. Rumble now soloing the Rift Herald. No vision here from NYT on the Rift. They have no idea that's happening. It is fairly easy for any champion, any jungler to solo the Rift Herald at this point. Just takes a while. Yeah, NA Best Teemo probably not going to be able to actually kill Villain until he gets the second item completion. But you can see he's sort of extending the CS lead that he already had. At this point, it's up to 30 CS of lead, and that you just kind of expect that to grow and grow and grow as the game goes on. So we'll have to see if he's able to make up for the deficits of his teammates, because right now the rest of his team is not doing so hot, which is kind of the opposite of how the other games went, right? Where ESP was losing the mid and the bottom lane in the last game, when in the top lane, it was fine for NA Best Teemo, but not great. And in the first game, NA Best Teemo lost lane quite hard. So sort of an inversion of what we've seen in the previous games.
Yeah, but I mean, the biggest thing about this CS lead that is kind of disappointing if you're an NYT fan is that it doesn't matter at all. It's disingenuous to say at all, but I wouldn't say it's grossly far from the truth, because NA Best Teemo can get ahead here, sure, and let's say he gets enough of a lead to get, we'll say, one big component. Like, right now he's ahead enough to get, see, the difference is about a ruby crystal. So, okay, 30 CS gets you a ruby crystal, but you're losing everywhere else. There's nothing you can do with a ruby crystal that makes up for the rest of your team losing. So while the matchup is going well for NYT and NA Best Teemo especially, it just won't matter unless the rest of the map can either pick up the slack that they have left for their top laner, or NA Best Teemo can get a great, like, 5-man Gnar at this point. I think is the only way that this turns significantly. Without objectives.
To some degree, I agree with that. But look at what just happened in the mid lane, right? They were able to, NYT was able to easily clear out the mid wave with the Syndra and Caitlyn wave clear, right? This Caitlyn at this point has the Runaan's Hurricane, which, while the early game of the Runaan's Hurricane has been nerfed a little bit on 7.9 in this patch, it's still a fine item in the early game. And as the Caitlyn builds up more and more items, it'll scale better and better, right? Because their AD ratio on those bolts is actually significantly better than it once was.
Right.
So that wave clear, that wave clear is something that's not going away for NYT. That is going to stay the same this whole game, right? That Syndra wave clear, the Caitlyn wave clear, and even to some extent, the Kha'Zix will eventually get his own wave clear with this W evolution that he has now. As he builds more AD, he gets some wave clear. And all they need to do in respect to NYT is they need to let this Gnar continue to build his advantage, right? If they can let the Gnar continue to build his advantage and they can clear out the waves in mid lane at the same time, that's all they need to do, and they can let the Gnar get turrets for them and close the gold gap, right? But it's just going to be so difficult for them to do that when, Acmeus is just going to pay a visit to the top lane and say, hey, Gnar, you got to back off. And, well, what's NA Best Teemo going to do? He has to back off. He can't fight that 1v2. He's not that strong. And so a small advantage like this isn't going to be enough. He needs more. And until he gets more, I just don't think it's going to be possible for NYT to win this game. They need this split pusher to be strong. And they need NA Best Teemo to go off even much harder than he's going off right now.
Well, I don't think either of those... Well, at this point, none of the outcomes that would leave NYT winning this game are very realistic without some sort of throw. But how do you play against the strategy? Hold on. 2 ultimates going out, but both of them missing. Pretty unfortunate situation there. So maybe they can turn it, but I doubt so. Is there anything that is within the realm of possibility that they could do, I'll say? Because really, with the pressure and presence that ESP have, and will continue to have because they have a Shen, I don't see any way that you can get NA Best Teemo being that huge split push pressure.
Zeta is trapped.
But he does have Chrono Break onto 2, and Stan United coming out, but it looks like he's still going down.
For nothing. The Stan United here just being used defensively by Villain over and over again, and you have to keep in mind in 7-8, yes, while Shen's damage was buffed, his ability to ult defensively has been nerfed massively. When your teammates get caught, that ultimate is, either you coming in much later or the shield is much smaller. So it's if NYT can continue to get these picks, if NYT can continue to stall this game, they do outscale ESP very hard, right? This Rumble does not scale well. The Echo does not scale well in comparison to the Syndra, right? The Ashe is a fine late game champion, as we're seeing Saban take some serious damage. But, all these other champions, this Caitlyn scales extremely well. The Syndra scales extremely well. The Gnar scales extremely well. The Kha'Zix scales well. Everything here from NYT outscales their counterparts, right? In pretty much every way, right? Maybe you could say in some ways that the Shen, in terms of split push pressure and ability to lend your assassin allies a hand, obviously there are differences between the champions, but generally speaking, NYT has a vastly superior scaling comp. So if they can stall, Yes, if they can make it to the point where people have, where this gold lead no longer matters, where these dragons aren't as important as they are right now, yeah, sure. These aren't fire drags, so it's entirely possible if they stall this out, even without the split push advantage, even if they're, even if this Gnar from NA Best Teemo doesn't get super fed and start solo killing side lanes, it's still possible that they could pull this game off. For them, it's a matter of stall or get your split pusher ahead, and you need to not fall too far behind. And this is a good way to play it. Force the TP and back off. That's all you need to do here. You don't even need to kill Zeta. You don't need to do anything, right? All you have to do is force that TP. And then suddenly, the Shen has much less pressure, right? Now, your Gnar can get a bigger advantage, right? Now you're looking at a 38 CS advantage. What do you think that's going to be after this Gnar gets to push 2 more side waves, right? If he gets perfect CS, that's another 12 CS that he can pick up for himself in the side lane when Shen can't do anything about it. And maybe even some turret pressure. So this is exactly how NYT needs to play. And now Zeta is caught without potentials for the Stand United, but I'm not sure they can actually finish that off. So maybe a little bit over aggressive there by NYT. And ESP needs to recognize that they can't get caught like this. They need to stay together. And they need to pressure turrets in a way. Wait, why is this TP coming out? This is kind of confusing. I don't think that TP made a lot of sense. Now the Gnar's TP split push pressure is largely gone because of that lack of TP. But regardless, I think that ESP is just trying a little bit too hard to get these turrets alone. And they're pressuring too hard by themselves. Is Baekhyun going to have to use the
Crystalero coming out. NA Best Teemo going in with the Gnar, and he gets it onto 1 stun. But Baekhyun also got knocked back by it. NA Best Teemo getting taken out there, but Acvius is doing a ton of damage in this fight. Saban goes down, and Neko Waifu is the last one standing for his team. It's an ace! Woo! Acvius barely surviving with, let's see, 62 HP right now, and that's with a potion ticking. So you got to imagine, he had 20 HP maybe?
Something like that. Very, very low HP. And, every time you see these teams go for a big play, every time you see them pressure up for a play, they're getting burned. It seems like whatever team is initiating these plays is losing out. Even though, for example, ESP have this Ashe, they have the, the supreme initiating carry, it just doesn't feel like any plays they initiate, are working out, right? And it just seems like the play that's playing reactively is winning. Right there, you had that force by NA Best Teemo, right? He got the summoners off of Baekhyun, and I feel like as soon as that happened, okay, let him get away. But he went, he saw the blood. He saw victory in his eyes, and he just went a little bit too hard for it, went too far, ends up dying, baits his team into a bad spot, and suddenly they just get aced, and they're all dead.
Yeah.
And that's a huge win that another turret picked up, and a huge gold lead. Over 8K gold leader, I guess a little bit less than 8K. So over 7K gold lead here for ESP. And at this point, now they can probably just initiate, face forward like they have been doing, and it'll work a little bit better with this kind of gold lead than the one they had before.
Well, I think a lot of it is on this Rumble, and I want to point out a really, at least I found it funny, stat line. Look at the CS numbers for ESP between the top laner and the jungle. Acvius actually has more farm by 9. And it's not like Villain has necessarily been slacking on the farm either. He's a little behind, but oh, KDR getting blown up. Z-Drive Resonance, was that the proc? It looked like it didn't do anything.
He was exhausted there. Said it was exhausted, so the damage was significantly lowered. But still, both summoners. Wait, Baekhyun, what are you doing?
Huh.
Went too hard looking for the Enchanted Crystal Arrow kill onto KDR, and I guess just wasn't paying attention. Maybe was busy watching the Hawk shot, I think, as NA Best Teemo tried to go a little bit there, too hard there. I think, had he gone for that kill, would have been picked up by the rest of ESP here, who were behind him. So, I mean, nice pick for NYT, and that's exactly what they need to help get them back a little bit in the game.
Ooh,
but
NA Best Teemo getting a one-man Gnar this time, and it looks like it's a full fight. A great equalizer to split the team. Saban goes down first. NA Best Teemo is stuck on that side of the equalizer. Equalizer has just worn off. NA Best Teemo, the Z-Drive Resonance not quite doing enough to kill him.
Yeah, just like the last team fight where NA Best Teemo goes a little bit too deep, and then Acvius just says, "Hey, what are you doing, dude? I'm gonna equalize the rest of your team," and then they can't follow up with you. It's just these Rumble ultimates at this point in the game. Yes, he does fall off in the late game much harder than he did in the last patch, but Rumble, in the mid game, it's still mid game Rumble. Even if you have a little bit more MR on a lot of your squishier champions, as I think he's gonna die to this turret. Yep.
But the execute.
Well. even though I'm singing his praises, and he does to turret, these equalizers in the last few fights have been really well placed
Yeah.
to dissuade the engages from NA Best Timo, because the rest of his team simply can't follow him, right? And that's part of why I keep saying things like, the initiating team loses out. The Rumble ult is, really, really, really powerful when used as a counter initiation tool, especially to a slower, low power engage like a Gnar. There's a reason why nobody says Gnar has initiation potential. It's because it's really slow, really unreliable, as the stun hits.
Oh no! Habibi Poppy walking into the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. I think Zeta's going to be able to get this one. Having a Chrono Break out, Habibi Poppy dodging the bubble, but it's not enough.
Yeah, so nice dodges by Baby Poppy, but without Flash, no way to escape there. I like that he kept his heal, because there's just no way he was going to live either way. So had he had Flash, probably would have made it out there, but didn't have it up, so wasn't able to survive. And this is an Infernal going over to ESP. This is going to help them out quite a bit, because it gives them a little bit of extra, damage. Worth noting here, though, that it's not really that effective on their team, right? Not that great on the Shen, not that great on the Rumble. And even Echo, Echo usually has very low AP builds, building for more utility effects like the Protobelt, like the Lich Bane, and like the Zhonya's Hourglass, which are all items you can see he has right now. And so really the only champion it's going to be really that awesome on is the Ashe. And this is a really low AD Ashe build. This is a double Zeal item Ashe build. So this, Infernal Dragon is not going to be as effective as you might normally think it would be on most teams. That said, it's still nice to have for sure. It's not bad. It's just not normal, not as good as it normally would be.
Did Villa just end up selling all the Rejuve beads? I don't think anything he has other than Ravenous builds out of them.
Yeah, you normally only get normally only build one of those Rejuve beads into an item, which is the Tiamat for the Ravenous Hydra. Right. As we're seeing, the Baron's probably going to be going over to ESP here. But yeah, sometimes if you're going Warmogs as
that might have been the game losing attempt.
There is an inhibitor already down, so the Baron going over to ESP, that may be game. I think Saban maybe should have just let them have it and said, we need to win a fight while you have Baron buff somehow. We need to get a pick or win a fight or something. But that's definitely going to be at least an inhib going down. Maybe the game if they're able to pressure up onto these inhibitors while Saban is dead.
I'm going to say game unless there's a miracle fight from MIT here. Oh, and Villain getting the taunt onto KDR. NA Best Timo is getting the Gnar. He gets the stun onto 2. This might be it. Chrono Break going out. Habibi Poppy having a flash in a fountain. Dying for it. Villain going in onto Zeta with the Stand United. And it's another near ace. That's going to be the game.
That's going to be ESP taking it 2-0 or 2-1.
Fantastic game there from the entirety of ESP, just turning it around from their losses. And, yeah, just really well played overall. I think that was a great performance, especially by Bakyan, whose only death was that weird, right-clicking instead of hitting R thing that he did in the inhib.
Yeah, I mean, Bakyan definitely looked really good in this Ashe, and it's worth noting, one of the big correlations between the games that ESP won versus the one game they lost. Bakyan, for whatever reason, ESP decided to ban the Ashe on red side. Maybe they were expecting a first pick Ashe from NYT, but he looked so much better on the Ashe than he did on the Lucian in game 2, and they were able to really crush lane in game 3, right? Game 1, I believe they had a small advantage in lane on Habibi Poppy and KDR. Game 3, they just absolutely stomped the lane. We were able to get massive advantages in the 2v2, and I felt like that was really the turning point for the game. Like, once they started getting those big advantages in the 2v2 matchup, it just felt like there was not really anywhere for NYT to turn for them to win the game, right? Like, they just had to rely on, let's just hope our Gnar gets really big, or let's hope we can stall this out until, everybody has 6 items or whatever, right? Like some ridiculous win condition that was really, really, really unlikely. And so it felt like, Baekhyun, that game, and Isazaya too, definitely, have to mention the support in the 2v2 lane. Really, like sealed that win there, like put the final nail in the coffin for that victory, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, there was nowhere for NYT to turn to look for a victory. So yeah, really nice play. I'm really excited to see. I'm really happy to see a close match. Felt like that match was really interesting all the way through, 2-1. And went to the full 3 games.
Yeah, pretty exciting end to this Learning 5 session, but unfortunately, there was the word end in that sentence and not just my casting partner's name, which wasn't even in that sentence. But we are going to have another session coming up, I believe, starting in June. Usually we take a 5-week break, but if you're not sure, like I'm not, about the schedule, there's the follow button on the Twitch so you know when our first show matches go live. That's usually about a week after the session starts. But aside from that, there's the Discord linked in the description down below, as well as our official Learning 5's Twitter. So feel free to check those out, follow them, like. You can't like on any of those options, so never mind. But we're, speaking for myself at least, and my partner N-Step, I've been Nibiria, and we're so glad that we got to bring you this final exciting tournament, and we hope to see you during the next session. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.
Okay.